across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
There you are, good afternoon and welcome to Drive Time right here on Talk. Stand by for 3 thrilling hours of news, views and topical debate. I'm your host, Kevin O'Sullivan, and I'll be with you all the way to 7 o'clock. Get involved, get on the phone and call me on the big number 0344 499 1000, or you can WhatsApp voice note me on that same number, and I promise to play your message out. It is Thursday. Where am I at here? Hang on. I got Friday, April the 10th. Why have I got that? It is Thursday, May the 21st. Here's what's coming up. Now that Boris is no longer around to wave in millions of migrants, net migration figures are down. And yet still, 171,000 foreigners settled in Britain last year, and the numbers of illegal small boat channel crossings continue to rise. Is this quite the triumph Labour are alleging it to be? 0344 499 1000. Meanwhile, the official Office of National Statistics reveals that a fifth of the UK's population were born abroad. That adds up to almost 11.5 million, 11.5 million. And over in France, the chance of migrants carry on gathering and waiting for their turn to climb aboard a dinghy and set sail for the promised land. Isn't that special? We'll bring you some footage just to remind you what's going on the northern coast. 0344 499 1000. In other news, wannabe Prime Minister Wes Streeting says Labour is losing the fight of its life against nationalism. Since nationalism is a love of one's country, a belief in the sovereignty of borders, and an affection for cultural identity and traditions, what exactly do Wes and his cronies find so appalling about nationalism? 0344 499 1000. Oh, and naturally, Wes has announced he wants a wealth tax. That's Labour's answer to everything, isn't it? Tax the rich. 0344 499 1000. Also on today's action-packed agenda, a furious Crowborough resident leads the charge, refusing to pay his council tax over his home's close proximity to the East Sussex town's massive new accommodation centre for more than 500 young male asylum seekers. Anger is spiralling after it emerged that the converted army camp will continue to house migrants until at least to 2030, contrary to the Home Office pledge to only use the joint for 12 months. Consultation with the local community? What consultation with the local community? 0344 499 1000. Plus, TV star Richard Madeley joins me later to tell me the extraordinary story of his visit to the world's worst prison, where 3,000 shaven-headed desperados sit in crowded cells, staring into space for 23.5 hours a day. They are not allowed reading material or anything to help them pass the time. Doomed to die behind bars, none of these forlorn men will ever be released. Also today, an MP calls for action to protect Muslim women from coercion and family pressure. And finally, Kinsey Scoffield on all the latest news from Planet Royal. All that and so much more, so don't go anywhere. Stick with me right here, right now on Talk, the home of free speech and common sense. Let's spend Thursday afternoon together. Let's go straight over to the leader of the Advance UK Party, Ben Habib. Welcome, Ben.
Good afternoon, Kevin. Good to see you.
Good to see you, as always. Well, ostensibly great news today. Net migration is down to 171,000. That's a considerable drop on previous years. So it looks good. But that was always going to really happen once you got rid of some idiot like Boris Johnson, who let 3.8 million legal migrants into the country between 2021 and 2024. Once you stop that madness, the figures are certain to look better, and they do. However, you know, small boat crossings are up. They continue to rise. We still have more than 100,000 asylum seekers around the country waiting for their applications to be processed. We have hotels, army camps everywhere. So, you know, to sort of sit there today and say, oh, look, because a few years back, the amount of migrants that came in was ludicrously more than 900,000. This
net 900.
Net 900.
Gross 1.5 million.
Yeah.
Gross 1.5 million.
Yeah, so that's absurd. But now we are, such is the state of this country that we go, oh, isn't it great? Only 171,000 came in last year. Let's remember, David Cameron all those years ago said, read my lips, you know, we will get migration down to below 10,000. We're nowhere near that. And actually, this isn't particularly good news. Small boat crossings continue to rise. Your thoughts, Ben?
It's not good news. And I think people have got to stop looking at net migration figures and start looking at what's underlying them. I mean, what this figure hides, for example, is that more non-EU immigrants came to 350,000 more non-EU immigrants came to this country than left this country. And in fact, the reason the figure comes down to about 170,000 net is because around 140,000 British citizens, 140,000 more British citizens left the country than came into the country. In other words, we're seeing net emigration of British citizens being replaced by the net immigration of foreigners. And this is the continued replacement of our people in this country, the dumbing down of our economy, and also the setting aside of what it means to be British. Because when you effectively replace the population of a country at the dramatic rate at which we've been replaced over the last, particularly the last 5 years, but over the last 30 years, you do away with the culture, you do away with the sense of belonging, which is why people like West Streeting want to denounce nationalists, because a nationalist recognizes the threats to the country coming from this mass replacement of their native population. And he would denounce nationalists because he wants people to be prepared to accept the setting aside of what it means to be British. So whilst the net figure may look like a significant improvement, I think Shabana Mahmood was saying it's 85% down from when the Conservatives were in office. Actually, it's coming from a very, very high bar, as you noted. And the gross figures are still way out of control. We've got to keep British citizens in this country, and we've got to encourage foreigners who are here to go back home. It's not a dramatic, extreme form of governance that's required. We just need to settle our own country and do something perfectly normal, which is invite those people who've come to the UK legally, and particularly those who've come to the country illegally, to go home.
Yeah, let's talk about West Streeting. This was his resignation speech in the Commons. So he effectively told his Labour cronies, and I'm quoting him now, we are in the fight of our lives against nationalism. And it's a fight we're currently losing. Let's actually have a quick look at Wes's powerful prose and his statement yesterday in the Commons.
I left the government because we are in the fight of our lives against nationalism. And it is a fight that we are currently losing. Unless we change course, we risk handing the keys of number 10 to reform. And I do not want that on our consciences.
Yeah. Do you know what I reckon this is, Ben? I reckon that these Labour idiots have finally worked out that calling everybody racists doesn't work. So they've come up with a new bogey word, nationalism. Now, we're losing the fight of our lives against the curse, the scourge, the horror of nationalism.
People who love our country.
Yeah, I'm just going to, I'll define, I'm going to define nationalism for you. This is the dictionary definition. It's a love of one's own country, an ideology that promotes the interests of a nation with the aim of gaining and maintaining sovereignty over its homeland, prioritising national unity, cultural identity and autonomy. What is it that Wes and his mates hate so much about nationalism? Sounds like a damn good thing to me.
100%. And that's why I've been saying for many years now, Kevin, you'll be aware of this, that Keir Starmer and this government or the vast majorities of the Labour benches are anti-British. They're actually anti the nation state, the kingdom actually, of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. They're against it. And what people may not know who are watching this programme or listening to it is that the government actually defines cultural nationalism. If you go to .gov.uk, you will find that cultural nationalism is defined as a far-right ideology. So if you believe in the culture of your country, and without a culture you can't actually have a nation state, they go absolutely hand in hand. So if you're a cultural nationalist, like I am, believing in a common language, a common history, common sets of values, common national heroes, an understanding of our Christian identity, etc., etc., etc. If you're one of those people, you are, under the government's own definition, now far right. They've brought the whole thing together, and they will denounce those who love the country because they are on a mission to set aside this country's identity, set aside its culture, set aside its people, and set aside the nation state.
Absolutely. Let me ask the audience. Give me a call, folks. 0344 499 1000. Do you despise the idea of nationalism? You know, a love of your own country, promoting the interests of our nation with the aim of gaining and maintaining sovereignty over our homeland, prioritising national unity, cultural identity and autonomy. Like West, do you hate that? Do you want to fight against nationalism? Or do you think it's a pretty damn good thing? Because it sounds all right to me. 0344 499 1000. By the way, let's move on to Rachel Reeves, shall we, Ben? Was this guy being un-British? Was he being out of line? This guy that drove past Rachel Reeves when she was standing with a camera crew. She wasn't in any physical danger. He was clearly not a threat, but he made his feelings known about the Labour government. Just have a look at this.
Keir Starmer, we're going to get arrested. We've got English flags on here, Rachel. We're going to get arrested. You're ruining the country. Get Keir Starmer out. Look, England flags. You're useless. Labour parties are useless.
I love our country, and one of the things about our country is good manners. Not very British.
Do you think that guy was out of line? I don't. And I don't think he was being un-British. I mean, boisterous debate conducted at high volume is very British, actually. I mean, he wasn't out of line, was he?
Well, I would say a few things. First of all, we've just established that this government, which includes Rachel Reeves, don't understand what it means to be British. They actually stand against against the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. So I think it's rich of her to be invoking a British cultural trait, first of all. Second of all, even though we are, by nature, a polite nation, actually there are times when you do need to speak up and you do need to confront absolutely forcibly the damage that's being done by people like Rachel Reeves and her boss Starmer, etc., to the country. And lastly, as you say, Kevin, I don't think that was rude. All he did was express himself, as I say, forcefully, having been no doubt absolutely pushed into a corner, holding his proverbial head in his hands, as so many of us are, looking at the state of the country and the direction in which this government is driving it. I'm completely behind that driver and the driver of that white van. And for Rachel Reeves to be invoking a British cultural trait when this government has trounced our British cultural heritage to the extent that it has is absolutely rich. Starmer is anti-British. Rachel Reeves is anti-British. The front bench of the Labour Party is anti-British. They should be removed from office, and cultural nationalism should be put at the heart of the next British government.
Well, you're having... By the way, that guy wasn't the only guy or the only person shouting at Rachel Reeves. The whole forecourt was full of people letting the Chancellor know what they thought of her government. So, you know, it was a lively exchange of views, let's put it this way. And I agree with you, Ben. I don't think that guy did anything wrong at all. But come on, though, Ben. You know, this is a fabulous chance. Have you not heard her amazing offer today? She's cut VAT on family days out. so you can go to the zoo. So you can go to the zoo cheaper. Here is Rachel announcing this astonishingly amazing innovation.
I can today announce a temporary cut in the rate of VAT on summer attractions from 20% to 5% over the summer holidays. This will apply to ticket prices for both adults and children, covering attractions such as fairs, theme parks, zoos and museums. It will include children's tickets for cinemas, concerts, soft play and the theatre. And it will cut the cost of children's meals in restaurants and cafes from 20% VAT to 5% as well. These changes will apply across the UK from the start of the Scottish school holidays on the 25th of June and run until the end of school holidays in England, Wales and Northern Ireland on the 1st of September.
Is she serious? I mean, you know, you're talking about, you know, saving about £1 if you take your kids to the zoo. I mean, what?
No. I know they're tinkering at the edges. If they really want people to be able to afford to enjoy their holidays, they ought to cut national insurance when they put it up for employers nationally, cut it back to where it was, cut the taxes on the working and middle classes, cut the taxes on small and medium-sized enterprises, and in order to pay for that, get rid of this hugely ridiculous welfare state that we've created around our necks. Yeah. She won't tackle the big issues. These are just sort of sweeties she's throwing at the electorate.
There's more to it than that, though, Ben. I mean, for example, part of this fabulous package that she's offered to a grateful nation is that children will enjoy free bus journeys in August. Well, who's going to pay for that? That's the rest of us, isn't it? They're not free. We'll effectively pay for free kids' bus journeys. So, you know, nothing is for free. This is just nonsensical, meaningless headline hunting, isn't it?
It is. The big issue, we've got two big issues on the cost side of the United Kingdom. The first is our welfare state, which needs to be cut back so that we can then cut taxes. And the other massive millstone around our neck is net zero, massively expensive energy and, frankly, a dearth of energy, energy insecurity. Those are the two big liabilities this country needs to address. And then they can do all the positive things that need to be done, like cutting taxes for all of us, not just for people who are on holiday who wish to go to the zoo, but for all of us, so that we can go about our daily business confident that the legitimate money we earn stays in our back pocket and isn't nicked by Rachel Reeves and then flashed up against a wall.
But this is a very great day for zoo goers, you know. So it's sort of like a sick comedy now. These people, it's so desperate. The truth is exactly what that guy, that magnificent white van man at the petrol station in Leeds, informed the Chancellor, your government's useless. And that's exactly
which was just a matter of fact. He wasn't being rude.
He wasn't. He was stating an absolute matter of fact, a demonstrable matter of fact. Ben, fantastic to have you on the show, as always. Ben Habib, the leader of Advance UK. Now, while the Labour government is crowing about, net migration coming down, as Ben and I discussed, don't get too excited about this. Don't get the idea that the migrant crisis doesn't continue apace. Isabelle Oakeshott's going to join us next, and she's come across some footage that'll give you a reminder of the scale of what's going on around those beaches in northern France. Just hundreds and hundreds of migrants proceeding in a long procession on their way to the beach or back from the beach because they couldn't get on a dinghy. We'll take a look at that in just a minute. Stay where you are.
the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. Watching and listening to Talk just got easier. There's now only one place for the home of common sense, so head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, amid the slightly encouraging figures that net migration has fallen to 171,000, down 48% on last year, there was another statistic that actually small boat crossings up until March this year are 3% up. So they're going in the wrong direction. They are accelerating. Now, we have got some footage provided to us by our international editor, Isabelle Oakeshott, which just gives you a kind of picture of everyday life in northern France. Before we show it to you, let's introduce Isabelle. Welcome to the show, Isabelle.
Good afternoon.
This was footage shot by an independent photographer, Adrian Snellius. He works under the name The Nowhere Photographer. This was shot at Lune Plage, Lune Beach, in northern France on the 7th of May, so not very long ago at all. Now, what I think is striking about what we're about to see, have a look at this. I mean, it's the sheer numbers of them. Look. Just as far as the eye can see, hordes and hordes of them just walking with all their luggage. Look at that. Now, you know, that's an everyday scene in northern France. Now, we're not quite sure, Adrian wasn't quite sure whether these people were walking to the beach, you know, to get their dinghy or their small boat to the promised land, as in Britain, or they had failed to get on a boat, and this is what happens all the time, and they were walking back to their tents or whatever accommodation they had. But, Isabelle, it's a very striking image, isn't it?
So for people who can't actually see the image at the moment, what we're showing is just a procession, I think is the right word.
That's what I just said,
Yeah, of migrants carrying their life jackets and walking through what looks like suburbia in a French town which is very much at the heart of the illegal small boats crisis. And I mean, they're walking through without any pretense at hiding who they are or what they're doing. You know, they are literally carrying life jackets as they walk through what looks frankly like a housing estate.
It does.
It's just extraordinary, the brazenness of this and their confidence that no authority is going to bother stopping them. And they're right to be confident that no authority is going to bother stopping them because the French police don't. And on the same day, Adrian also captured footage of the French police just basically herding illegal immigrants onto a bus, knowing that that was going to facilitate their onward passage to the UK. And this all the while that the UK taxpayer has just been forced to donate yet more money to the French authorities to allow this absolute racket to continue right under their noses. It's worth noting that the photographer, who was not interested in getting involved in any way, he's a photographer. He was there to observe what was going on. He and his colleague were repeatedly detained for brief periods by the French authorities as they went about their legitimate business of recording what is going on and what is coming and who is coming to our country. And yet the same French police seem to be entirely indifferent to the undocumented males, almost all males. We can see some women in that footage who are making their way to the UK. It is utterly, utterly scandalous. And here's the other thing, Kev. We are coming up to what I think is going to be a massive May crossing this weekend of small boats.
Really?
I think this is going to be...
Because it's going to be a very, very hot weekend in very calm weather, yeah?
What we're going to get, I think, is the sunshine surge. Now, I think that we've done a bit of number crunching on this, looking at data based on the maritime conditions, based on what has happened before, kind of operational patterns, and based on the sort of the way that we know that the smugglers choose their routes and their times. We think that there might be as many as somewhere between 1,000 and 1,800 may come over to the UK in small boats between Friday and Sunday, or Friday and Monday, because of the way the weather is looking. We may get as many as 20 plus boats coming over. And now, of course, these things are quite unpredictable, and I might have egg on my face, but that is where we think it's looking likely to be. So prepare for it.
I will.
The sunshine surge.
Yeah. Now, interestingly, this place, Loon Plage, on the day when this procession was filmed, there were no recorded boat departures, dinghy departures from the beach there. So my guess is these people, and this happens all the time, they had been to the beach and for some reason were unable to climb aboard one of their boats to the promised land, to Britain. Might have been bad weather. There's all sorts of reasons that they get to the beach, but it doesn't quite work out. So I suspect that these people might be coming back from the beach, forlorn with their life jackets and all that. But very, very interesting times. Listen, before you go, and we're going to show I hope you're around tomorrow, but we're going to show the footage of these same migrants, I think, all being herded onto a bus by the police in their bid to get rid of them. That's what we're getting for our £662 million that Shabana Mahmoud, the Home Secretary, just gave to the French. The cops herding these migrants onto buses, taking them to the beach so they can come here. Not really very good value for money. I just want to quickly get your take on the new net migration figures. They have dropped to, or last year, 2025, to 171,000. That's a 48% drop, and encouragingly the lowest figure since 2012. In 2023, we hit a peak, an absurd peak of 944,000 net migration. But the reason, the government's saying, you see, it's all working out. Well, the reason for this mainly is the madness of ludicrous Boris's wave, the Boris wave. He let in a staggering 3.8 million legal migrants from 2021 to 2024. After that lunacy was ended, you're bound to get better looking figures. But I think the takeaway headline to remember here is small boat arrivals up until March this year were up by 3%. So just because the net migration figures have come down for a variety of reasons, the migrant crisis is still very much upon us, isn't it?
Do you have in front of you there, Kev, the number of people who left the UK? Do you have that figure?
Somewhere, but I haven't got it written down now.
Okay, well, I suspect that part of the reason for this fall is because record numbers of Brits, particularly high-earning, wealthy Brits, and also young people, by the way, left the country under the Labour government. I mean, we know that huge numbers have been part of kind of the Starmer exodus.
136,000 left the UK last year.
Okay.
I got that number.
And the other thing I would really point to is the scale of illegal immigration on the back of lorries and in cars, which no one is talking about anymore, but is available. We know this from research that myself and Christian Drogan have done with actually talking to people smugglers. Pretty much any day you want, you can get, if you've got the money, you can pay to get in the back of a lorry or a car. And I think that is much underreported, the scale of that, because we're all rightly focused on the boats. those people just melt into the black economy. They're not showing up on these figures.
That's a very good point. A final question to you. The ONS, the Office of National Statistics, has revealed that this is quite shocking, really, or extraordinary anyway. A fifth of Britain's population, a fifth, as in 1 in 5, are foreigners born abroad. So 19%, that's about one of the UK population, 1 in 5 were born abroad. That means that's 11.4 million people. That's a significant increase from previous years, up from 16% in 2021. A fifth of the people who live in this country are foreigners.
It's just unbelievable, isn't it? It is absolutely astonishing. Then on the Labour side, they wonder why people are so completely destabilised by this huge cultural and demographic shift in our country. All they can say is diversity is our strength. Well, I actually think it's the opposite. Diversity in this regard is destabilising our country. It is dividing our country. And I'm afraid we also know that 1 million people or more in the UK now can hardly speak English or can't speak English at all, struggle to speak English, with all the associated implications of that for divided communities, for unbelievable amounts of taxpayer resources spent translating for these people and catering to them. The UK is just not set up for this, or rather it is being set up for this at the expense of the British people. It doesn't work. Now, people might point out, I'm speaking from a country, Dubai is actually about 90% incomers, but there's a huge difference here, which is A, they built the infrastructure. They actually want to create a society out of people that have come from all over the world. And critically, there's no welfare state for incomers here. You come in, you do your job. If you don't have a job, you're out. It's really that simple. What a contrast to how we work our immigration system.
Well, our political class over the past few decades, certainly over the past 15, 16 years, the Tories and then Labour, have changed the face of this country beyond recognition, and no one voted for this. Why? What we should be asking, I'm not against foreigners or anything, but we should be asking why it is that a fifth of the people who live in this country are not British. That is a very pertinent question. Who voted for that? Why have the Westminster mob, why have the political class imposed this strange syndrome upon us? It's a very, very weird situation. Listen, Isabelle, great footage, and we're going to do the bus stop stuff tomorrow. Hope you can come on then. In the meantime, a big thanks to Isabelle Oakeshott, our brilliant international editor. Next up, we're going to talk about West Street again. Doesn't like nationalism, you know, a love of your own country, sovereignty, cultural traditions. Doesn't like that kind of stuff. He's in the fight of his life. He says Labour is in the fight of his life against, you know, the love of your own country, love of sovereignty, love of cultural traditions. They're fighting in the fight of their life against that. He doesn't like that, but also doesn't like rich people. Like all people in the Labour Party, the solution to everything for Wes is a wealth tax. Tax the rich. We'll talk about that next. Stay tuned.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's go straight over from the Taxpayers Alliance we're going to Robert Bates, actually, from the Centre for Migration Control. He's the research director there. Hello, Robert.
Afternoon, Kevin. How you doing?
I'm all right. In Crowborough, at least one resident has taken a stand. I think his name is Giles Ellis, and refused to pay his council tax because his house is just a few yards from the new massive migrant asylum seeker accommodation centre, the former army camp there. More than 500 young male migrants now living in the middle of that very pretty East Sussex town. They've been protesting week after week, but to no avail. But what they were told, there's been very little consultation between the poor people of Crowborough and the Home Office. They haven't been consulted. But what they were told was, oh, don't worry, it'll be for 12 months. Well, it turns out that it's going to be until at least 2030. Two things about that. The people of Crowborough were lied to. And secondly, the lack of ambition in saying we've got 540 migrants living in this pretty town. The residents are furious, but we'll leave them there for the next 4 years at least. I mean, that is not a scenario which envisages the end of the migrant crisis anytime soon, is it?
No, well, the first rule of British politics, of course, is just always assume the Home Office is lying until they show you otherwise. And I think when it comes to this accommodation, the Home Office is dealing with figures today, nearly 100,000 asylum applications every single year. They have to put them somewhere rather than detaining and deporting them. The Home Office decided to scatter them around communities, and the Home Office is going to really struggle in the coming years if this pace continues, which it looks like it will do, to find adequate accommodation, and therefore they will have found sites such as this in Crowborough, and probably actually intended for it to be relatively short term, or at least on some level, and then actually when they've sort of looked around the rest of the country and tried to find other suitable accommodation, realised that they're not going to be able to, and thus this has been extended. And of course this isn't the only instance. We've got contracts currently out for tender from the Home Office, looking for HMOs and other sort of student flats and so forth, with contracts up to the end of the decade as well. So there was clearly an acceptance within the Home Office that the asylum crisis that costs us, up to £6 billion a year just in asylum costs, not including all the hidden costs, is going to continue rumbling on and on and on. And I really don't see anything that came out today which would suggest they are going to get a good of it. As to this individual resident, I do have utmost sympathy to him. His house prices will be completely obliterated as a result of this. No one wants to move right next door to 500 undocumented, unvetted men who have the right to roam wherever they should so please. And this is the real life impact that decisions taken by people remotely in Whitehall, hundreds of miles away from the individuals who are affected by their decisions. This is the consequence of that. And I think really the case of Crowborough just shows once and for all that the small boat channel migrant crisis is exacerbating a huge democratic deficit in this country, and it is leaving voters with very, very little viable option to actually have their voices heard. And if it takes sort of action such as this for people to feel like they are having the ability to fight back, then so be it, quite frankly.
Yeah, Giles Ellis was in Hastings Magistrates Court today, yesterday, responding to a summons for refusing to pay his council tax because of the migrant accommodation centre that town has had imposed on it. They protested. They were ignored. And there's a couple who were also in the papers the other day. They applied to turn their barn into a nice eco home. They had a barn in their garden, and they were told, "Oh, you can't do that because that will ruin the beauty of the area, will ruin the serenity of the area." And they're saying, "Hang on, 100 yards away, you got 540 migrants." 540 young men who spill into the town every day, start drinking on the corners, make everybody feel uncomfortable. Aren't they rather spoiling the serenity of the area? The council, is sort of ruling the roost there. in a way that is very two-tier, isn't it?
Well, it would be two-tier. Let's not forget that the leader of the council is the deputy leader of the Green Party, and this has put her in a very uncomfortable position because she's obviously getting dozens and dozens, hundreds of emails from residents that are rightly concerned, but at the same time, it's her party that wants to throw open the borders even more. But I do think there is a sense of a two-tier administrative system now in this country where Brits who are naturally inclined, I think, just by temperament to play by the rules and they kind of accept that doing so is for a greater good. We're now increasingly seeing that very system clamping down on them, making life more uncomfortable for them, whereas individuals that have done as their very first act on British soil, breaching our immigration rules, being put up in a life of luxury, being given taxpayers' money, all the rest of it, all that glitz and glamour. And there is across the country, wherever these kind of accommodation sites are situated, a real seething sense of the system now not just not working for us, but actively working against our interest in pursuit of whether it be opaque international obligations or human rights laws, or just generally the ideology of people who are in power but hate this country with every fibre of the being. Because I do think increasingly that's where we are with the Labour Party. We just have people that don't see our country as worthwhile, don't see as actually an entity that should be governed in a proper manner, but more and more it's a pulpit just for them to pursue their own hobby horses of human rights and so forth. And this is why we need a complete reset at the next general election, and the political class of the last 30 years, quite frankly, need to be swept away.
Let me show you some. I want to get your take on the net migration figures today. Apparently, it's fantastic news. They've dropped to 171,000 over the past year. This is a nice low point, except for there are all sorts of factors involved. For example, Boris Johnson is no longer letting 3.8 million legal migrants into the country over a 3-year period. Once that finished, subsequent figures were always going to look better. But amid these statistics that Labour are crowing about today is the news that actually small boat crossings up until March this year went up by 3%. So they're going up. And we received this footage. I want you to take a look at it, just as a reminder of what's still going on in northern France while Labour basically act like, hey, we're on the way, we've almost solved the migrant crisis. Look at this, Robert. This was filmed on May the 7th in a place called Lunes Plage. Lunes Plage, there you go. Look. Now, we're not sure whether these people were on their way to the beach with their life jackets and everything, or whether or not they, for some reason, had not managed to get on boats and were coming back from the beach. But either way, look at this procession.
Look at all the stethoscopes as well, of course.
Yeah.
All the sort of...
Oh, yeah, stethoscopes and the scientific and engineers material that they'll all need to pick up the threads of their golden careers once they get to Britain, of course. But no, seriously, I mean, look at that. So all the time, this is what's happening in France. It's extraordinary, isn't it?
It really is, and a part of me does have sympathy for those individuals that do live in northern France and now increasingly areas of Belgium as well that have effectively just seen shanty towns and as it once was called the jungle spring up on their doorstep. But let's not kid ourselves. The intent of these individuals is to make it to Britain. They're not sort of settling up shop there. They're merely passing through. And I think we're hearing more and more reports of the nature of individuals that are actually on the coastline, and there was a report yesterday that actually many of them now can't be stopped by the Belgian police, or the Belgian police are refusing to stop them because they are violent former soldiers. This is what we kind of mean when we talk about fighting age males. These are individuals who, yes, are in their 20s, but they also come from countries where conflict and combat is rife and have been steeped in that culture for the early stages of their life. And I think, we hear reports of thousands of individuals sort of waiting for the opportunity to make that crossing in camps and so forth. And as talk has reported previously, sort of how these communities operate in northern France. But let's not kid ourselves that, just because we are seeing a bit of a dip in the small boat crossings compared to last year, that the problem is somehow gone away. I think it would be incredibly naive for us to buy into the line that the Home Office wants us to, that it's problem solved, because the problem is still sitting there. The underlying factors are still there. What we have simply seen is, at the start of the year, a bit of bad weather, and we are seeing at the moment the people smuggling gangs reconfiguring their operations to deal with some of the very, very minor impediments that the government seems to have try to present as problem solved, but actually are just simply pushing the problem either up the coast or causing them to have to be a bit more tactful in how they operate. So the problem hasn't gone away, and it won't go away until a very clear message is sent to all of these individuals walking on this street here, that if you get to Britain, you're getting detained and you're getting sent back from whence you came or to a third country. There's no other alternative. You're not staying in Britain.
Yeah, exactly right. Robert, really good to have you on the show. That was Robert Bates, the Centre for Migration Control Research Director there. Next up, we're going to talk about wealth tax. Stay tuned.
Brand new for 2026. It's going to be the only way to start your day. It's the home of common sense. It's where the nation can come to speak about the day's news. It's the Jeremy Kyle Breakfast Show. You know who you are. You get up, you graft, you work hard. I'm here for you. We want to hear your side. Promise you one thing. It is where the nation can and will come to talk. The Jeremy Kyle Breakfast Show, weekdays from 6 a.m.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Yesterday we did a story about Bournemouth and how migrant hotels and asylum seekers, hundreds of asylum seekers there, have changed the nature of the town. Particular worry about sex offences. Dorset Police have got in touch with us and would like us to, what they say is correct the record. This is what they say. Between the 1st of January 2025 to 31st of March 2026, there were 8 sexual offence reports where the offender was reported to be from asylum accommodation hotels in Bournemouth. All reports are investigated. Across the same period, there were a total of 808 sexual offences reported within the area of Bournemouth. This equates to approximately 1% of the total. We have a statement here from Dorset Police. This is a spokesman saying, Dorset Police work tirelessly to ensure our communities are safe and feel safe, and our crime figures for the Bournemouth area show we are making real progress with significant and sustained reductions in serious sexual offences, most serious violent crimes and violence against the person. The continued reduction in crime is as a result of proactive multi-agency working to ensure that Bournemouth remains a safe town for everyone to enjoy. We want all our public spaces to feel safe, and through our community safety partnerships and all other multi-agency working, we are working proactively to create safe spaces in our towns and address any issues that are causing concern to the local community. Specifically in Bournemouth, we have seen increased high visibility patrols, though through hotspot policing responding to incidents of crime and anti-social behaviour. That's the police's version of events down there in Bournemouth. They asked us to say that. Now, let's move on. Let's talk to William Yarwood. He's from the Taxpayers Alliance. Hello, William.
Good afternoon, Kevin. Thanks for having me on the show.
Always a pleasure. Labour, their answer to everything is tax the rich, isn't it? So West Streeting, first of all, starts saying that Labour in the fight of their lives against nationalism, the horror of nationalism. Nationalism means a love of one's own country, a belief in the sovereignty of your borders, and an affection for the cultural traditions of your nation. Quite why Wes wants to fight nationalism, it's a bit of a mystery, really, but what he did include also in his resignation speech yesterday in the Commons was the tired old Labour claptrap, let's tax the rich. He wants a wealth tax. So does Andy Burnham. They all want wealth taxes. Why do they think that's the only solution?
Because they're drastically unoriginal, to be honest with you, Kevin. They think they can just pull this lever and suddenly all of Britain's financial problems will be solved. The NHS will be fully funded. There'll be enough money to send abroad on foreign aid projects. There'll be enough money to pay every public sector worker, even more money than they already earn. This is the one-stop solution for them all. But interestingly, Streeting hasn't called for a direct wealth tax. What he's called for is a so-called wealth tax that works, which made me laugh when I heard it. And it's basically the equalisation of capital gains tax with income tax. Now, to break that down slightly, what he essentially wants to do is he wants to have capital gains tax rates equalised with income tax, so 20%, 40%, 45%, and so on and so off. But with the HMRC, His Majesty's Revenue and Customs actually came out with a report that said a plan like that would actually cost the Treasury money, and actually would cost, possibly, if they went for the upper rate, would cost the Treasury over £7 billion, £7 billion gone down the drain, gone away, which the Treasury would not have if this was implemented. So often with these schemes, Kevin, like with lots of tax and spend schemes, they basically end up costing more than they actually bring in, which is no surprise to me, but a lot of these Labour backbenchers, like you said earlier, don't have an original idea in their brains and just repeat the same old tropes again and again and again.
Well, taxing the rich, I don't think, from Labour's point of view, is usually about, bringing in vast amounts of revenue. It's a social thing, isn't it? It's a class warfare thing. It's what they stand for. So they say wealth tax the rich because Labour supporters love that, Labour Party members love that. But actually, as a matter of fact, as a way of raising the kind of income tax revenue that this nation needs, taxing the rich, it's just a drop in the ocean, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a drop in the ocean. Like the wealth tax proposals proposed by people like patriotic millionaires and even some Labour backbenchers have argued that a proper wealth tax on assets would raise about 25 billion pounds every single year. Now, let's be honest, that's not going to raise that amount of money because lots of rich people will just essentially leave the country, as they already are doing, Kevin. But even if let's take it as true that it will raise 25 billion pounds a year, that barely scratches the size of our welfare bill, that barely scratches the side of our immigration bill, that barely scratches the side of our debt interest bill, which is over 110 billion pounds a year at this point. So basically, their one solution to all of the country's problems isn't even going to raise the money needed to solve all the country's problems. And to go back to the point earlier about wealth taxes more broadly being ideological, I completely agree. I think they are ideological. And it's interesting when you present the statistics to these people, and they don't like it when I do that, but nevertheless will do it anyway. They basically will move the goalpost. They'll say, well, this is not about raising money, this is about reducing inequality. And my response to that, Kevin, is yeah, you will reduce inequality, because basically all you're going to have left in this country is people on lower and middle incomes and nobody on a higher income. So ta-da, you've reduced inequality, and yet what you're going to have to do, because the tax base will be even smaller, of course, people in the top 1% pay a disproportionately high rate of tax than other groups. Basically, what that would mean that lower and middle classes and working classes would have to pick more of the tax bill up. And I ask any Labour MP, ask any MP and any person generally, how on earth is it fair that middle income and working class people should pick up more of a tax bill because you've scared off the rich?
Yeah, and when they say, it's actually about creating more equality, getting rid of inequality, that's when the mask slips, isn't it? You know, this is a class warfare thing, you know, go for the rich, go for the poshies. It's socialism at work. It isn't about raising revenue. It's about fighting their socialist causes, a hatred of those who do well, those who are rich, those who are wealthy. That's what it's about, isn't it?
Yeah, completely. And I think that this mindset has actually been embedded in our country for quite a long time, and it's high time we stop doing it. Basically, in this country, you know, this doesn't just apply to politicians, this applies to lots of people. When they see someone who has done well, you know, they're successful, they might even be properly wealthy, they immediately think, that person has cheated the system in some way. That person has found opportunities and found things that I haven't, and therefore they must be a bad person, and therefore the government must intervene and squeeze them for every last penny they have because I deserve some of it. I think that is an incredibly toxic and indeed anti-growth, anti-wealth mentality which this country has, not just under the Labour Party, but indeed under the last Conservative government as well. And I think if you want a prosperous, growing economy, if you want decently funded public services, if you want a country where, you know, aspiration and opportunity is rewarded and encouraged, a wealth tax is the completely wrong way to go about that. But like I said earlier, Kevin, you try explaining this to people like Streeting and other backbench Labour MPs and Green MPs and the like. They don't care, because ultimately for them it's an ideological end goal that makes them feel good and then makes their base like them even more.
Exactly. It's just the sort of mob mentality in Labour. William, great to talk to you. William Yarwood there, spokesman for the Taxpayers Alliance. Next up after the news, it's Baroness Clare Fox, Director of the Academy of Ideas. That next, stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. In about 20 minutes or so, I'm going to talk to Richard, my old friend, Richard Madeley, TV star. Done an amazing documentary. He's been to El Salvador to visit those extraordinary mega prisons, mega jails, where thousands of these shaven-headed, tattooed gangsters are held in the most stringent conditions. They sit in these cells. These prisons are spotlessly clean in these cells, on top of each other. tier after tier. 23 and a half hours a day. They're not allowed reading material, can't watch telly, nothing. They just sit there staring into space for 23 and a half hours every day. Extraordinary. So Richard's been there to have a look at this, and I think it's fair to say that his jaw dropped. He said nothing prepares you for the sight of these astonishing prisons. So we'll talk to Richard in just a little while. He's got a great documentary coming out on Channel 5. Now, first up, though, let's go to my next guest. She is Baroness Clare Fox, the director at the Academy of Ideas, a former Brexit Party MEP, of course, and author of I Find That Offensive. Hi, Clare.
Hello, Kevin.
I wanted to get you on. We'll get to some all of today's stories in just a second. But you made a speech in the Lords that chimed with me, that I totally agree with. Because I went to both of those demonstrations, both of those protests at the weekend. The Nakba, the pro-Palestine march, and of course the Unite the Kingdom rally as well. Now, the political class, the Westminster bubble gang, especially the Prime Minister, and of course the London Mayor Sadiq Khan, have sought to characterise the Unite the Kingdom march as a sort of cauldron of hatred. You know, the Prime Minister ahead of it saying, "I will not tolerate hatred." You know, because of course, if you have right-wing opinions, that means you're full of hate. If you have left-wing opinions, you're full of love. But he made no mention, when he said he wouldn't tolerate hate, he made no mention of the pro-Palestine march. And nor did Sadiq Khan afterwards. He said, "Oh, there are so many extremely disturbing Islamophobic incidents." Well, I can't talk for the whole of the Unite the Kingdom protest, but I went down there for an hour or so when they were in Parliament Square. Very good-natured. I didn't see any masks. You know, it's a sort of almost party atmosphere. Certainly not very much hate. Then I went to Nakba, and it was like a kind of Dick Turpin look-alike contest. Everybody had a mask on, you know, keffiyeh scarves up to the eyeballs, all yelling about death to the IDF, and they wanted Tommy Robinson assassinated in the same way as Charlie Kirk, and so on and so forth. The political class will not acknowledge that was where the hatred was. It wasn't at Unite the Kingdom. It's two-tier government, a two-tier approach to the right to protest, really.
Yeah, I mean, I was making. I don't want to romanticise the Unite the Kingdom rally, because, you know, there were some pretty unsavoury signs, you know, anti-Semitic signs at the Unite the Kingdom one, and there was some sort of quite, you know, some people would say some offensive stuff going on there, and a few characters who I won't necessarily share their views, but your point is absolutely well made. And the point of my speech was to say, we were talking about the National Security Bill, because I was doing the King's speech, and they say we have got to clamp down on extremism from, you know, Islamism, good, and the far right. And I was making the point that why is it when they, you know, don't like that couplet, because they use it as an excuse to then say that they're equally a threat, and we know that that's not true from any of the statistics, and that they always feel much more comfortable having a go at the far right. And I understand that term far right is used so promiscuously, it's become meaningless. Yeah. People have been called far right. It doesn't mean to say that there aren't far right nasty, you know, prats around, right? I don't want to, and I spent a lot of my adult life fighting the fascists, as it were, and I don't want to start apologising for people whose views about people with different ethnicities, the colour of their skin and so on is obsessive. But the majority of people who want to unite the kingdom, and we're just attracted to that, or just simply are concerned about mass migration, are worried about the lack of social cohesion when you have a situation of undocumented migrants in a local area not, you know, participating in society, the rise of a kind of radical Islam and a politicized Islamism, that means that people do not feel comfortable in towns around the country. That is not far right, right? That is actually common sense, understandable. people feeling that they want to express that fury, but they also want positively to say, let's have a country that's not divided by the identity politics stuff. I mean, that's the real cause of division, isn't it?
Indeed. Well, talking of which, well set up, Claire. This is breaking news. Let's get your take on it. You will have noticed that kicking and screaming after a long delay, Bridget Phillipson yesterday did at last say right to biological males are banned from female ladies' loos and female safe spaces. This is breaking news. Women and Equalities Minister Bridget Phillipson has now said that the landmark Supreme Court ruling, and I'm quoting her now, made it clear that sex means biological sex under the Equality Act, and that, and I'm quoting her again now, trans people are still protected by the Act. She laid the long-awaited updated single-sex spaces guidance out in Parliament. So, you know, she held off doing this for a very, very long time. She's finally done what she was legally required to do, which was enforce the ruling of the Supreme Court. But she can't resist getting in, oh, and trans people are still protected by the Act. Well, trans people, if you're a trans woman, in other words, a biological male, you might be protected by the Act, but you are no longer, in any circumstances, allowed into ladies' loos or female safe spaces. So she's got there in the end. But your thoughts?
Kicking and screaming it has been. And I have to give credit to, you know, the grassroots organisations, people like Sex Matters, Women's Rights Network, and of course For Women Scotland, who brought the Supreme Court thing, and many, many more, right? Who basically said, look, the Equalities and Human Rights Commission laid this guidance, gave it to the minister in September. And practically every week since then, in the Lords at least, people have been saying, well, when are you going to release it? When are you going to release it? Now, as it happens, it doesn't do anything other than give some guidance to public institutions about single-sex spaces. But the problem is it's not having it, I mean, it doesn't change the law. The law was being clarified a year ago. But the problem is that all sorts of institutions, NHS trusts, universities, even schools, all sorts of public sector organisations, but also private organisations, have basically refused to implement the Supreme Court's clarification on single-sex spaces, using the excuse that the guidance hasn't been released. And I do think the government and the ministers have acted shamefully here. I mean, you know, they just should have sorted it out earlier. But I want to celebrate it's out now. Mm-hmm. But I also want to note that in the King's speech, they put in a conversion therapy bill. I mean, there's going to be in this session an attempt at laying down a bill or writing a bill that will mean that if you are, say, for example, a therapist or a teacher or a religious person or even a parent who says to your child, who says, I am a different sex, you know, buying the gender stuff, right? Mm-hmm. And they might be distressed, but if you try and say to them, no, don't worry, you could be accused of conversion therapy, and that could be illegal. So this is, you know, it's like they can't, it's 2 steps forward, 1.5 steps back. And at the same time, they've announced today, this is a classic that I want everyone to know about, the UK is proudly going to host the European International Day Against Homophobia, Biphobia, that's fine, right? All right, that, and transphobia. Because what they've done is they've managed to get transphobia in. And they are going to spend £21 million of taxpayers' money. They're investing this in global LGBT plus rights. Now, by conflating lesbians, gays, and bisexuals with trans people, right, you immediately create a situation of tension. And I can assure you that the main beneficiaries of that, what can only be described as a jamboree, is not going to be fighting against discrimination against lesbians and gays or bisexual people. It's going to be dominated by the trans activists, and it's going to be a forcing of that unhappy marriage between trans and gay people, which shouldn't exist because there's no relationship between the two. So it's almost as though they can't, they're constantly looking over their shoulder they're kind of identitarian activists, their own members. And so they've brought this guidance out and announced this at the same time.
Sure. Let me. Did you see the guy? Oh, wait a minute. I got a statement from the government. They say, in terms of what you just said, Claire, there's more than £20 million. This investment reaffirms the UK's commitment to defending the human rights and freedoms of all people, including those who are LGBT+. The thing is, you know, as you say, conflating homosexuality with trans people is a bit like that, conflating gay people with paedophiles, which is what they do in Russia. Do you know what I mean?
You can be a trans person, but the problem is that part of the trans ideology is to refuse to acknowledge biological sex as a fixed entity. And so you are in a situation in which a lesbian is accused of being discriminatory if they say that they are not interested in a man who identifies as a woman. Can you imagine? You're trying to, you know, meet up with some fellow lesbian. A man who identifies as a woman wanders in, and if you say, I'm not interested in you sexually, that is then seen to be phobia, transphobia. And so it is ridiculous because it's actually a denial of single sex. And by the way, that £21 million, right? I just read that on the government website. In the press statement, they brought out
21 million quid onto the global.
They brought it out on a global day. Now, I only know about this because the government announced it. If they wish to clarify it for everyone and what is she going on about, don't put it out as a press release.
Unbelievable.
Right? So let me tell you.
I think you just gave us a sort of exclusive there, Claire.
I mean, it's they've put it out publicly because I know they're worried they're going to get a load of stick from their trans allies in public sector unions and so on. It'll moan about these guidance.
What a mess. What a mess. Let me play you this. This is that you will have seen this by now, but this is a citizen of the United Kingdom making his feelings clear about the Labour government to the Chancellor of the Exchequer, Rachel Reeves, yesterday. Watch this.
The country, get Keir Starmer out. Look, England flags. You're useless. Labour parties are useless.
I love our country, and one of the things about our country is good manners. Not very British.
I'm not sure whether shouting at a politician is British or un-British or whatever, but what I found interesting about that film is, and I thought that guy was, you know, perfectly within his rights. He was pretty good-natured about it, let's be honest, and he wasn't the only one shouting at her. But what struck me was that guy. I don't want to stereotype anybody, but that was a white van working-class man. And he despises this Labour government. He despises everything they've done. What did he shout? Yeah, useless. Well, you know, that was the traditional Labour voter. He's shouting about Nigel Farage and reform. When you see that, and as I say, he wasn't the only person shouting at Rachel yesterday, you think, well, maybe old Andy Burnham up in Makerfield is going to have a lot of trouble because that white van man, I think, is pretty typical of the people who live in Makerfield, a solid working class constituency. The working class have fallen entirely out of love with the Labour Party, haven't they?
I think they have. Listen, one of the things that's really funny about the Makerfield by-election is that Keir Starmer's just announced that he's going to go and canvass with Andy Burnham.
Well, Andy's lost it then.
That's what I was thinking. God, I assume that this is a sort of operation to destroy Burnham's vote. Because you can imagine Starmer turning up in the constituency and everybody just going, what the hell's he doing here? Because the whole, you know, Andy Burnham's whole shtick is, I'm not Keir Starmer. I'm not, you know, I'm not the unpopular face. And, you know, there's no doubt about it. Reform are not going to walk in and win that seat easily. But the tension is exactly as you've explained, which is actually, if you look at what Andy Burnham's, or listen to what Andy Burnham's saying, it's basically status quo establishment stuff. I mean, he's not going to change anything to the Labour Party. I mean, I think he's going to actually, arguably, be more in hock to the activists in the Labour backbench ranks myself. But he's sort of saying, oh yeah, I'm going to carry on.
Yeah.
So therefore, it's a personality contest. And the truth is, Labour's problem is not Keir Starmer. He just embodies it. Labour's problem is that they have abandoned, betrayed the working class. And we started off with that story about the United Kingdom. The whole reason I was, in my speech, making the point was Keir Starmer, to save his skin, brought out a special film in which he called on ordinary people to fight for the soul of the country, and they identified the enemy as being the kind of people who might go on a United Kingdom march, right?
Yeah.
And that basically is the sort of contempt we saw around Brexit and ever since. And the working class have had enough.
Yeah,
they are not prepared to go along with that anymore. They might even vote for Burnham in Makerfield because, you know, getting your local man to be the Prime Minister is probably quite tempting. But they do not trust Labour at all. Labour is finished. It's a hollowed out entity with no working class support.
Exactly, and that guy, the white van man having a go at Rachel Reeves there, is the sort of person that Keir Starmer would say is far right. And
also, he was a bit rude, right?
A bit, you know, but I thought he was quite good-natured, you know.
I'm not even criticising, but you think that, you know, there's people writing op-eds about misogyny against female politicians, how uncouth he was. You do think, oh, get out a bit more. Also, I went to a conference on Brexit the other day because Brexit is back in, because obviously the contempt for the working classes.
Of course,
you voted against what we told you to do, so we're going to overturn it. But anyway, I went to this conference. I had Steve Bray's mob all screaming at fairness, right? And apparently they're the nice people, right? They're the ones who are on the nice side of this street.
Be kind, yeah.
Be kind, lovely people.
I'll tell you, Claire. I want to go to Makerfield when Keir Starmer goes up there. I bet Andy Burnham's thrilled about that. But Claire,
it did make me laugh.
It makes me laugh as well. I got to go, but listen, that was great. Please come on the show again very soon. The brilliant Baroness Clare Fox, there, director of the Academy of Ideas. Now let's go to break. When we come back, it's Richard Madeley on his astonishing trip to El Salvador to see arguably the worst prison in the world. That next. You don't want to miss it.
Some breaking news this morning revealed that under the Terrorist Act, 242 people were arrested in the year to June of this year.
Something you can indulge in as to all the people who aren't going to prison because, well, there's no prison spaces.
So this is a Talk exclusive we've been looking at.
I said, you take these cuffs off me and speak to me like a human being rather than a common criminal.
You're just left wondering, does these people who lead us actually hate Britain? Yeah. Do they not love our country and everything that we've stood for?
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. El Salvador's terrorism confinement centres, CCOT for short, are arguably the world's worst prisons. They're not filthy. They are places where the inmates lose all hope. None of them will ever be released. And for 23 and a half hours every day, they sit there staring into space. They're not even allowed to read anything. It's an extraordinary sight. And my next guest, my old friend Richard Madeley, has been to El Salvador to see this extraordinary jail for a documentary that's on Channel 5 next Wednesday. Welcome, Richard.
Hello, how are you doing?
I'm doing very, very well. Great stuff, by the way. And we're going to play a little clip first. But first, I'm going to read a quote that you gave the Daily Mail today. It struck me, this. Nothing, absolutely nothing can prepare you for the sight of 3,000 shaven-headed men crammed behind floor-to-ceiling bars, no doors, no screening. They sit there permanently, open view through the bars, on tiers of metal bunks 4 high, no mattresses, just thin cotton sheets staring out. It's one hell of a sight. Now, before we get your thoughts, Richard, let's have a look at a bit of a clip. This is when the prisoners are waking up for another very samey day in their jail.
It's approaching 4 a.m. and the prisoners are due to be woken up.
Most of the guys are asleep still, so we have to be quiet. Quite a few have covered their faces. They've been woken up. So how much sleep have they had?
El cese de las actividades comienza a las 9 de la noche hasta las 4 de la mañana. A las 4 de la mañana comienza toda esta actividad y la primera actividad del día es conteo.
Just in case somebody slipped through the bars in the night. Okay.
So a couple of things about that, Richard. One of the things that strikes me is just how pristine clean. It's like a pharmacy there. But just sum up what must have been for you an extraordinary experience.
Well, I guess most of us have heard about something about CCOT, and we've seen some of the very few images that have been released from it. What we got, me and my crew from ITN, making this documentary for Channel 5, was unprecedented access. We got 2 full days nearly inside the prison, although they nearly chucked us out after the first 2 or 3 hours because the prison governor was uncomfortable with some of the questions that I was asking about conditions there. But nothing, as I say, nothing can prepare you for what it's like to walk through the gates of that enormous prison cell for the very first time. As I say, I was expecting there to be barred doors and maybe hatch holes that would slide aside and you would peer in. But as you could see, it's not like that at all. It's just floor-to-ceiling bars. Frankly, it's like walking into a human battery hen cage. That's what it looks like. I also expected for there to be a profound odour, because prisons, in my experience, when I visited prisons before, have a stench to them. This didn't. As you say, it is kept spotlessly clean. I also expected there to be the usual background howling and whistling and screaming and cursing that you get in most jails. There is an eerie silence when you walk in. There isn't a sound to be heard. And as you heard, and as you've said in your quote there from the piece in the Daily Mail this morning, these guys have absolutely nothing to do. As you walk past cell after cell after cell, each one with these 4 tiers of bunk beds, no mattress, just a metal bunk bed with a thin sheet on it, and 100 men to each cell, and then you go past to the next cell, and they look exactly the same in their white shorts and their white T-shirts. Total silence, and they just stare out at you. In fact, somebody asked me earlier today whether there was anything unethical about going in with cameras and filming these guys, because, of course, they have no say in the matter, but I think we were the highlight of their year. We actually gave them something to look at and something to talk about, because, as you said, they have no magazines, they have no books. It's nothing like a high-security European or British prison where at least the inmates get to go and learn skills in the kitchen or go to the prison library or indeed have prison visits. They have none of that. They just sit in their cell with literally nothing to do.
Did you talk to any of them, Richard?
The protocol at the prison was that nobody but the guards can talk to the prisoners. I kept trying. That's one of the reasons we nearly got chucked out. And I was told in no uncertain terms if I did again, that was it. We'd lose the documentary. But we kept pressing. And in the end, I persuaded the governor, who you saw briefly there, to let me interview one prisoner. He was a guy who went by the name, when he was outside, he was one of the gang leaders, as Psycho, which fitted him very aptly because he actually had killed at least 30 people, and he seemed quite proud of it, to be honest with you. And I had 5 minutes with him, so I had to put a lot of questions in pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But I established with him that what they do in those cells all day, in the 23 and a half hours that they're confined in them, all they can do, because they have no knowledge of what's happening in the outside world.
Yeah.
I mean, there could be a nuclear war in the Middle East and they wouldn't know about it.
Yeah.
They just talk about the old days. And he said to me, quite frankly and quite sort of unapologetically, that he accepted that they had to be locked up forever. I mean, some of them are serving sentences of 700 years, because in El Salvador, you don't serve sentences concurrently, so you get 4 life sentences, but you serve more at the same time, which I think most people think is ridiculous. They serve them consecutively. So if you've had a jail sentence for, say, 30 years for life, and it's followed by another life imprisonment of 30 years, then that's 60, and another of 40, that's 100, and so on.
So all these guys, Richard, will die in jail. This is literally a life sentence.
They will die in prison. This, as I said in my first 5 minutes there, as I walked around, quite shocked at the image. I mean, the image of them sitting there is harrowing. And it just hit me straight away that this was their past, that this was their yesterday, this was their today, this was their tomorrow, and this was their death.
The guy you spoke to, did he express the sense of despair that must be pervasive among these people? I mean, how can they live like this?
Exactly the question that kept running through my mind. You'd think you'd go mad. You'd think it would drive them mad. But they're not in solitary confinement. They're in a cell of 100 other men, and that gives them at least some kind of social backdrop to fall back on.
Yeah.
And he said to me, I was leading to saying this in my earlier answer, he said to me that if they were ever let out, the only life that they know is the one that got them sent there in the first place, and they'd go straight back to it.
Now let's talk about the reason that they are there. You said that at first you were appalled by, shall we say, this mass assault on their human rights. I mean, you know, 23 and a half hours every day. Not even do they leave their cells to eat. The food is passed to them. They get a quick half an hour exercise under heavy guard. And at first you thought, well, this is horrific. And then you began to hear some of the crimes that these people have committed. I mean, these are bad guys, right?
These are the worst of the worst. And I kind of knew that, but what I didn't realise until I got to El Salvador, I knew that they'd had a massive gang problem running for about 20, 25 years, and the gangs had run the country. The gangs were raising more money through protection and extortion from the people of El Salvador than the government was raising in taxation. That's how powerful they were. But what I learned quite quickly by talking to the ordinary people like you and me, journalists, doctors, street cleaners, office workers, you name it, teachers, I spoke to so many people, and what I heard were stories that would turn your hair white. These guys, they weren't just gangsters running powerful gangs controlling the country. They were psychotic, psychopathic sadists. I was shown, at one point, 5 of the prisoners were lined up in front of me. I couldn't speak to them, but I was 2 feet from them. And I was looking at them, and I have to tell you, they looked psychopathic. And each one, the prison governor, as we went down the line, the prison governor read out their rap sheet. And the crimes were unbelievable. We got to the 4th guy, and he was one of the executioners for one of the 3 gangs that ran El Salvador. And he was a machete executioner. And he had filmed himself, or had allowed himself to be filmed by the gang, without any face covering. I mean, they were completely impervious to any kind of justice for all this time. He allowed himself to be filmed, macheteing to death 5 road workers. There were guys who were laying cables in San Salvador, the capital, and they'd just strayed into by a few yards, a gang's territory without asking permission. So they were seized, their hands were tied behind their backs, they were put face down in the dirt, and they were macheted to death. And as this was being explained to me, and this guy was looking at me, one of the guards shoved a video phone under my face, and it showed the guy I was looking at committing this crime. And you know, you've heard about the ISIS beheading videos, which I've never looked at, I've never seen. Mm-hmm. This was like that. It was indescribable. I wouldn't describe it on your show. It was beyond horrific. And the guy in front of me was recognisably the man who was chopping people's heads off. So when I heard all of that, I began to wonder, and the gangs had control for so long, I began to wonder if actually it's in our gift here in the West to wave a finger at El Salvador at the way that they managed to somehow claw their way back to sanity. And CCOT has done that for them.
It's working, isn't it? That's the point.
It's working. I mean, look, the murder rate in San Salvador was something like 7,000 a year, and at times it was 1 an hour. It's now 80 a year, from 7,000 a year to 80. It was the most dangerous country in Central South America, and indeed in the world. It's now one of the safest. It's safer than London. It's safer than the United States. So yeah, it's working. And the ordinary people who lived under the thumb of these psychopaths are on their knees with gratitude. I did an interview with a security minister walking through a busy market late one evening. Sun was going down. And you know what? It was like walking with Tom Cruise. People were running from their stalls to embrace him. They recognised him. He was one of the architects of smashing the gangs and imprisoning them. And they were throwing their arms around him and pushing his Kalashnikov to one side so they could kiss his cheeks. Gracias, senor, gracias, gracias for our freedom. You gave us our freedom. And if I've got time just to tell you quickly, one story.
Yeah, go on.
Very quickly. A taxi driver said this to me. I asked him, I said, well, what would you say to the human rights people who quite rightly, quite correctly, say that CCOT is a breach of human rights? He said, I tell them this is my time taxi. You come back with me in my time taxi. We go back any year you like before 2020, 2015, 2010, 2011, you name the year. I take you back. I put you on the street corner in San Salvador. I leave you there. I come back in 1 year. I come back in 1 year to pick you up if you're still alive. And when I come back, he said, I swear you will be on your knees begging me to take you back home because you can't live under them. It was a very, very interesting analogy.
Extraordinary, Richard. What a fantastic documentary this sounds like. It's called Inside the World's Mega Prison. It's on Channel 5 next Wednesday, am I right? May the 20th.
Next Wednesday at 9 o'clock.
Next Wednesday, May the 27th at 9 o'clock. Really good to catch up with you again, mate. We've got to get that beer in very soon. But
you got it.
Well done. Well done, Richard. Great stuff. Richard Madeley there, GMB presenter, of course, TV host, Richard and Judy Fame. Great documentary that sounds like, doesn't it? Extraordinary place. It works though. It works. Next up, we are going to talk about cousin marriages, Sharia law courts with an MP. So that next, stay tuned.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's go over to my next guest. She is MP Rebecca Paul. Welcome, Rebecca.
Having me on.
Now, you're the Tory MP for Reigate, and you are on the Women and Equality Select Committee. Now, the committee recently released a report on discrimination against Muslim women, which is a good thing. Nobody likes Islamophobia, and nobody likes discrimination towards Muslim women in particular. But you have pointed out in a sort of subsidiary report, if you like, your own report, that this focused overwhelmingly on external prejudice, you know, the kind of prejudice that Muslim women may suffer from, you know, other members of the community. But what you say is that this ignored coercion, abuse and harmful practices within Muslim communities and families. You say that the Women and Equality Select Committee report said nothing about forcing young girls to wear headscarves in schools, said nothing about what I think is the scourge of first cousin marriage, or Sharia courts undermining women's rights. You also criticised the fact there was no plan to increase prosecutions for female genital mutilation offences. We have a problem here, don't we? Tell us about, first of all, Sharia law courts. Do they perennially find in favour or find against women? I think women have trouble in Sharia courts, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the issues that we have is that the general attitudes within the Muslim community towards women are out of kilter with the general population in the UK, and we have polling that all shows that. So, you know, almost 50% of Muslim men think that their women, their wives, should obey them, and obviously you would get a very different result if you polled more generally across the UK. So there are these different attitudes, and then when you overlay that with the fact that many women that enter into Islamic marriages are actually unregistered, so they're not protected by UK law, which then means they can be in the position where if they have a divorce, as it were, even though they're not actually married, they end up expected to go through a Sharia court, and it's not always fair in terms of the approach they take. Now, that's not the case for all of them, of course, but fundamentally we have seen examples where women have been massively disadvantaged and even pushed back into coercive, abusive marriages with husbands just because of different attitudes within some of these communities. So it's a massive problem.
Should we have Sharia courts at all? I think there are about 85 around the country. I mean, if these kind of disputes that Muslims, people from the Islamic community, go to Sharia courts for, shouldn't they be settled in normal courts, in the normal system? Why should we have Sharia courts to decide these Muslim issues?
There is a place for legitimate arbitration and mediation. And so if a group is effectively performing a legitimate service within the rules of this country, that's absolutely fine. But what we find is that sometimes these Sharia courts step outside of what they legitimately can be doing. So, for example, if there's a criminal matter, they absolutely should not be ruling on that. That would not be a legitimate thing for them to do. So I think it's more a case that we actually need to crack down on those situations where they're not complying with the rules around arbitration, and where any rulings that they are giving are not reflecting UK law and our British values. Because obviously in this country, women are not second-class citizens. They should be treated equal to men. Yeah,
I know that these courts, the Sharia courts, do deal with a lot of marital disputes, and that more often than not, the findings are not in favour of the women. What about forcing young girls to wear headscarves in schools? What could we do about that? I mean, I mean, in your experience, are lots of Muslim girls having to go to school wearing headscarves that they don't want to wear?
If you ask them, they might well say they're very happy to do it. You've got to remember that they're growing up in a community and a family where it's expected. But again, we need to think about what we are willing to accept in this country. And the first thing I would say is little Muslim boys are not expected to do this. It's just little Muslim girls in the name of modesty. I mean, why does a little girl have to be modest? And the reality is it does have an impact on her. It effectively makes her feel different to the rest of the class. So that does have an impact in terms of integration. We see almost all these girls that are wearing the hijab and are covered very modestly suffering with a vitamin D deficiency.
Because they don't get any sunlight, yeah?
Exactly.
I didn't know that. I didn't know about that.
No, absolutely. And if you think, if I sent my daughter into school and I was doing something, knowing that it caused a vitamin deficiency, people would have something to say to me about that. It would be a massive problem. So I think it's really important that we actually speak up for Muslim girls and women in this country and just say, actually, this isn't acceptable. This is actually harmful for them. They're children. They can't choose. I would never say to a woman, you shouldn't be able to choose what you wear. But children can't choose. This is their family and their community. Do you think,
Rebecca, that the schools should step in? Should perhaps schools ban hijabs and burqas, etc.?
I mean, the different schools will take different approaches, and actually when you start to look at the uniform policies, there's actually a huge number of schools in this country that now include the hijab in their uniform policy, and I think that's something that's worth having a debate. If it were up to me, I would ban the hijab for under 16s in schools. I just don't think it's appropriate. If at the age of 16, when they're an adult, they decide they want to do that, that's another thing. But in schools, I want little girls to be treated the same as little boys, and I want them to have access to the full range of sporting and social activities, and I certainly don't want them to be suffering with a vitamin D deficiency.
Very interesting proposal. Now let's move on to what I say is the scourge of first cousin marriage. I find it extraordinary that practice is legal. You have one of these Gazan independent MPs standing up in the House of Commons saying, well, first cousin marriage is fine because it's common practice in sub-Saharan Africa and the Middle East. And you think, oh, well, if it's all okay in sub-Saharan Africa, let's have it. But what we know about first cousin marriage is no ifs, no buts. They are more likely, significantly more likely to produce children with deformities, with birth deformities, than children who do not come from first cousin marriages. So because of that, surely we should make them illegal, should we not?
I completely agree. Just because something is acceptable in a certain culture doesn't mean in this country that we should accept that. And you've hit the nail on the head in terms of the ramifications. Huge numbers of these children are born with disabilities or special needs. And when I was doing this report, I was obviously coming at this from a women's rights perspective, being on the Women and Equalities Committee. And you have to remember that it's the women, it's the mothers that end up caring for these children that require a lot more support. And firstly, it's just totally unfair to knowingly bring children into the world with those difficulties, and it's all entirely preventable and avoidable if we didn't allow first cousin marriage. And if you look in Bradford, 37% of Pakistani heritage couples are in a first cousin marriage. This is a massive issue, and as the Muslim community grows, this is going to become in certain areas, this is going to become more and more of an issue, and I absolutely think we should be banning it.
Yeah, it just bemuses me that it's legal in this country to have marriages that are much more significantly likely to produce children with birth defects than normal marriages, if you like. Last question to you, Rebecca. Thanks so much for coming on. It's been a great conversation. You include in your list of innovations that you'd like to see happen, a plan to increase prosecutions for female genital mutilation offences. There's no plan for that at the moment. Why not?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd like to see a task force. I mean, basically, it's the most abhorrent thing, female genital mutilation. And when you look at the stats, we might in this country see 7,000 cases in a year. Yet since we brought the law in and made it illegal, there have been three prosecutions. I actually think there's probably a lot of cases where it's easier for people to turn a bit of a blind eye to these situations. Again, people, they worry about, being called racist, or, they worry about cultural sensitivities rather than actually putting the protection of children first. So I want to see a task force that is literally going out there and aiming to increase the prosecutions for this, given we know that this is going on at a much greater scale. And I also would want to see much more severe sanctions for health and care and social workers who don't report.
Rebecca, it's been great to have you on the show. Come on again soon. Let me know how your campaign gets on, because I support you all the way. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you very much.
Rebecca Paul there, MP, Conservative MP for Reigate. She's a member of the Women and Equalities Select Committee. They're very much against Islamophobia from the outside, but Rebecca pointing out that there's problems within the Islamic community, coercion, abuse, harmful practices within Muslim communities and families against women. So, and what do you think about her idea that schools or girls who attend school should be banned from wearing hijabs, burqas until the age of 16? What do you think about that? 0344499 1000. Sunsport next. Stick around.
Breaking news this morning revealed that under the Terrorist Act, 242 people were arrested in the year to June of this year.
That's something you can indulge in as to all the people who aren't going to prison because, well, there's no prison spaces.
So this is a Talk exclusive we've been looking at.
I said, you take these cuffs off me and speak to me like a human being rather than a common criminal.
You're just left wondering, does these people who lead us actually hate Britain? Yeah. Do they not love our country and everything that we've stood for?
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Sean Custis, Director of Sport at The Sun newspaper, is in the studio. And in times of trouble, you can always rely on your mum to support you. Manchester United star Harry Maguire is in shock after Thomas Tuchel, the England manager, left him out of the World Cup squad. And his mum, Sean, Zoe Maguire, has tweeted that she finds this absolutely disgusting.
Yeah, absolutely disgusted by it, she says. She always stands up for her lad, and she certainly has in this case. So Harry put out a post saying that he's obviously been contacted by Tuchel this afternoon ahead of the naming of the England squad tomorrow. Harry Maguire puts out a post. I was confident I could have played a major part this summer for my country after the season I've had. I've been left shocked and gutted by this decision. I've loved nothing more than putting on the shirt and represent my country. I wish all the players all the best. Then his mum replied, which is absolutely disgusted by the decision.
Well said, Zoe. But why do you think Tuchel has left him out?
He didn't have him. He wasn't including him in his squads. Then weirdly, for the last one, Maguire played both games, but Tuchel did make the point that he felt he was behind some players, and of course, it's been complicated by the fact Levi Colwell's just come back into the Chelsea team after a long-term injury, and he is definitely one that Tuchel likes. The weird thing is he seems to also prefer Dan Burn over Maguire. Now, I'm a Newcastle fan, and I still wouldn't take Dan Burn ahead of Harry Maguire. Harry Maguire, both are very good in the box, late on, but Maguire's got an incredible record of scoring late-headed goals, not just for being a centre-half. And, of course, Maguire has all that England experience too. Look, he does divide opinion at times. But he's been pretty
He's
good
had a good
for
season,
England.
hasn't he? I mean,
he's been, and come back. You think of the
very
way he's
resilient,
come back, very resilient character. And while you could see Maguire starting games for England in World Cups, you can't really see Dan Burn starting games for England in World Cups.
That's true.
So it's a strange decision, and certainly Maguire's been surprised by it. I think they felt, because he got picked in the last squad and played both games, that he was going to get in, and he hasn't. And we shall find out more probably as the night goes on, because Tuchel is contacting players who were in the 55 but aren't going to make the 26. Official announcement of the squads tomorrow morning from quarter to 10.
Lots to talk about tomorrow then. By the way, you know that in our chats I always have to get Fulham.
You can't possibly get Fulham
I can.
into this.
Dan Burn used to play for Fulham.
Used to play for Fulham. And famously once against Manchester United, David Moyes' tactic was to knock high balls into the box, and Dan Burn just headed it away time and time again. And that's when I first noticed him, when he was playing for Fulham.
He's a good player.
Yes, I forgot he played for you lot.
Yeah, of course. Of course. Well,
absolutely.
We created him, Right, let's move on to Aston Villa. Great night for them last week. Did you expect they'd win quite so comprehensively?
Probably. I mean, Freiburg aren't the greatest side on earth. They were about seventh.
They certainly weren't
seventh in the Bundesliga, I think. And really, there was two unbelievable goals. Let's put that right, first of all, from Tielemans and Buendia, and a great finish from Morgan Rogers. But they got it wrapped up quite early on, so it was a bit... While it was a fantastic night,
it was. Within about 20 minutes, they were 2-0 up.
It wasn't a great spectacle. It wasn't a great spectacle. But for Villa fans, some people I know out there, they're having a fantastic time, and it was a great party for them. And Unai Emery is winning his 5th Europa League or equivalent title. And weirdly, there's this weird thing about every team he's managed to win that Europa League has got Villa in the name.
Yeah, and of course, that's true. Let's not forget Prince William, big Villa fan. He was there.
As I say, we were mentioning last night, my mate Prince William, who I've interviewed about Villa before, and he knew his stuff, and you could see he's not putting that on, is he?
He's a proper football
He really is invested in it. He really did enjoy it, and it. Do you know what? There's something quite good, I think, about seeing royalty properly passionate about the people's sport, if you like.
For God's sake, you don't go to Turkey to watch a football match unless you're a proper fan.
Well, I think you might. Come on, you do for a final, don't you?
Well, I suppose so.
Yeah, you do.
But he wasn't there as Prince William, was he? He was there as a Villa fan.
And unless you're a Birmingham City fan, I think most football fans don't begrudge Villa that. They're sort of, you don't really hate Villa, do you? You just they're one of those clubs that they can be interesting sometimes, and they're a very big club.
And Emery's done
an amazing job. Brilliant. And they'll qualify for the Champions League, of course. Already had by leagues, and they will through the Europa League as well.
Excellent. Well done, Villa. As you predicted, Sean, Southampton's appeal against that very stringent punishment for spying on Middlesbrough was not successful. The decision to expel them from the playoffs and to take 4 points off of them at the beginning of the next season stands.
Yeah, it didn't take long for the appeal to be done, did it? Because we were here at 5 to 6 last night. I'm saying the appeal starts about 6, quarter past 6. I think the result came through just after 9 o'clock. there was nowhere to go. They made the point, Southampton were arguing on the fact it's disproportionate, but they couldn't argue on the grounds that they did it and admitted doing it to other clubs as well. And now Eckhart, the manager, will probably either be sacked or have to leave, because I don't think the fans want him there anymore. No matter what a great job he's done, he is associated with tainting the club, and the club needs a reset and has to start again. And him being there wouldn't be right anymore, I don't think.
I saw a TV report with all these super Southampton fans, and that phrase, more in sorrow than in anger.
Yeah.
They were just upset, but they say, look, it's a very tough punishment, but we did it, and they discussed it. They're disgusted.
And it is a shame, because I do think Southampton's one of those clubs people quite like, and the way they finished the season was spectacular. But they did it under false pretences in some ways, and they paid the price. And now we get Hull versus Middlesbrough on Saturday, which I'll be popping along to for the Championship playoff final. And there's a mad scramble for tickets from everybody up there, and how on earth they get to Wembley with train troubles and all of that, and trying to get their hands on tickets. And it's all a bit manic, but I think it'll be a good final.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting, and what a backstory it will unfold to. Extraordinary end to the season, generally speaking. Still a little to come. Thank you very much to Sean Custis, Director of Sport at The Sun. All of those brilliant stories and more on the back pages of your favourite newspaper tomorrow. Now, next up, after the break, Samara Gil, Talk Ace reporter, will be in the studio to run through some of the big stories, and later on Meghan Markle will be in sharp focus as I talk to Kinsey Scoffield about her wedding pictures. Not Kinsey's wedding pictures, Meghan's wedding pictures. Extraordinary stuff. We'll talk about all that later, so stay tuned. See you after the news.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Going to take your calls in a little while. 03444991000. You know what we're talking about. Get on the phone. Net migration is down, but the big news, the great news, is it's going to be a bit cheaper for kids to go to the zoo thanks to a big special offer from our big-hearted, generous Chancellor Rachel Reeves. What do you think about that? 0344 499 1000. Kinsey Scoffield will also join me later to talk about the latest goings-on Planet Meghan and the rest of the royal family, news from them. But for the meantime, next 20 minutes or so, let's spend them in the excellent company of Talk's ace reporter, Samara Gil. Welcome, Samara.
Hi, Kev. Thanks for having me on.
Always a pleasure. Right, you want to come? Oh no, you won't be able to use this. But I was going to invite you to the zoo because we can go cheap.
Do you think I'm a child?
Yeah, no, exactly. Well, in many ways, you are compared to me. You are.
Yeah, I feel like a child, that's for sure. Will they take mental age? Because I'm about 12.
The mental age of 3, so there you go. Let's just remind ourselves of this extraordinary, amazing offer by the Chancellor. Here she is. Take it away, Rachel Reeves.
I can today announce a temporary cut in the rate of VAT on summer attractions from 20% to 5% over the summer holidays. This will apply to ticket prices for both adults and children, covering attractions such as fairs, theme parks, zoos and museums. It will include children's tickets for cinemas, concerts, soft play and the theatre. And it will cut the cost of children's meals in restaurants and cafes from 20% VAT to 5% as well. These changes will apply across the UK, from the start of the Scottish school holidays on the 25th of June and run until the end of school holidays in England, Wales and Northern Ireland on the 1st of September.
I mean, talk about fiddling around the edges, but this scheme to let people go to zoos and summer attractions at a cheaper rate by cutting the VAT on the tickets, entry tickets from 20% to 5%, right? That's going to cost £300 million. Who pays for that? Taxpayers. So she's being very generous with our money. I'm all for, if kids want to go to the zoo, knock yourself out. But I don't see why I have to, fund their visit. Do you see what I mean? She's acting like, oh, but it's all free. It's not. We're paying for it.
Exactly. It's giving the one Labour policy that they continue to bang on about, which is that they provided free breakfast for school kids. That's the hill that they continue
breakfast clubs. Breakfast clubs, and more breakfast clubs. Which, as you rightly say, Samara, they always said free breakfast clubs. They're not free. We pay for them. And this cut on summer attractions, taking the family out, taking your kids out for the day, very nice for the families and the kids. But the rest of us are paying for this, 300 million quid's worth.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, objectively, Rachel Reeves has made a very large amount of the population poorer with her insane tax rises and ridiculous pseudo-economics that she has imposed on everyone. And this is just some sort of get-out-of-jail-free card for her. I mean, genuinely, it's so desperate to now be pandering to children to try and get a vote from their parents because she's pleasing them with some strange little discount that she's giving them during the holidays. It doesn't make any sense to me at all. And I think that this is really desperate times and desperate politics for her as she tries to scrounge her own reputation that she's already lost. I mean, there is a dark side to what Labour does do when they try to prey on children and try to give them free things, give them cuts, etc., things like that. It's because they want to influence future voter bases, in my opinion. And that's the kind of side of it that we don't talk about too much. I know that sounds comical.
I've just got this idea of a 5-year-old kid going into London Zoo saying, this cheap ticket ensures that I'll be a Labour voter in the future.
But think about the breakfast
I know what you're
clubs,
saying.
If you're a kid getting fed by Labour, you're going to, in the future, probably vote for Labour. And I do think they think about that. But yeah, you're right. I mean, it is grasping at straws a bit. I just think I agree with you. Why is it up to the state to pay for this? I don't understand. And you're right. They again try to brand it as this sort of discount freebie. It's not.
Indeed. Now, net migration has dropped to 171,000. That was in 2025. That's the lowest since 2012. 2012. In 2023, it hit a peak of 944,000. So, you know, it's the direction of travel is encouraging, but illegal boat crossings are up by 3% this year up until March. Asylum seekers, 100,000 or more around the country still. And the Office of National Statistics has revealed that 1 in 5, a fifth of the British population, are from abroad. They're foreigners, like you, Samara. No, okay. I mean, it's a serious thing.
Now, I'm part of the Commonwealth.
Of course you are. No, serious. That was just a joke. But nobody voted for a fifth of the people living in this country being foreigners. Nobody voted for that. What's going on?
Yeah, it's a really interesting set of data that's come out from the ONS today, and there's so much to pick apart at it. But I think that you're right. No one voted for 14 years. I mean, when people wanted a Conservative government, they were basically saying we want tighter borders. But unfortunately, obviously, under the Boris wave, which allowed swathes of mass migration in, they didn't get what they wanted. Again, they voted for Labour, who said we're going to smash the gangs. The gangs were not smashed. Then there was 1 in, 1 out. That didn't happen, and so on and so forth. So you're right. Nobody voted for this. Nobody really wanted this, but it has happened to the country. And when you look at the way that Keir Starmer and Shabana Mahmood are trying to gaslight the public into thinking that they've cut migration massively, it's just falsified in terms of how they're presenting the data. Because what we've actually lost are swathes of multimillionaires who have basically run from the country. We've also had a massive brain drain. So a lot of our youngest, best and brightest of Britain have also left. We've had, you know, a 642,000 exodus from the country. And then, of course, we've brought in 813,000 people in the past year have moved to the UK. So don't let them say that this is some sort of triumph for Labour government policy. I think I can agree with what Rishi Sunak did, which is in 2024 to stop dependents coming in on student visas. I think that was absolutely insane, and that was kind of what contributed to the Boris wave in the first place. But now we're just getting the benefits from those policies, and Shabana Mahmood and Keir are taking all the credit for it.
Yeah, well, as if to say, oh, the migrant crisis, we're on our way, it's going to be solved soon. Well, we got this footage earlier. This was on May the 7th, so what is that, best part of a couple of weeks ago. This is in northern France, a place called Lunes Plage. Look at this. Look,
yeah,
massive
I don't think that says smash the gangs.
A massive procession of people with their life jackets. We think they're probably coming back from the beach, having unsuccessfully not managed to get onto boats, because that quite often happens. Tell you why, because this is May the 7th. There were no recorded crossings of dinghies or small boats that day. So we suspect they're coming back, but it just proves that while Labour's crowing about, oh, look, net migration figures are down, this is still going on in northern France. The migrant crisis is far from over. In fact, amid these statistics that we've just been assailed by, was the discouraging statistic that small boat crossings up until March this year are up by 3%.
Exactly. And I think it's really important that we focus on the illegal migration factor, and also the way that that is up percentage-wise right now, up from this year, because every single person who gets across on a boat or a lorry or applies for asylum does actually end up costing the UK taxpayer over £40,000. So, you know, whilst we can look at the legal migration that came in, I do have a bit of time for the fact that many of those people will be paying tax into the system at least, whereas these asylum seekers are not paying a single cent. In fact, they're taking out of the economy and they're taking the taxes that are being brought in. So that's why it needs to be stopped. But it doesn't seem like it's on Keir's agenda at all. I mean, it really doesn't, Kev.
Exactly right. Let's have a look at this. I mean, we've been playing this all day and yesterday. This is Rachel Reeves at a petrol station in Leeds, where a motorist, a passing white van man, made his feelings clear about the government.
Keir Starmer, you're going to get arrested. the country. Get Keir Starmer out. Look, England flags. You're useless. Labour parties are useless.
I love our country, and one of the things about our country is good manners. Not very British.
If you love the country, Rachel, why are you ruining it? My point about that is that guy, who I think was being perfectly okay, you know, she's a politician, she's surrounded by a camera crew, there was no physical threat to her. It was, shall we say, it was a robust exchange of differing opinions. But that guy, white van man, classic, the almost epitomises the working class man of Britain. Makerfield is full of guys like that, including, funnily enough, the Reform UK candidate, Robert Kenyon, who is a white man. He's got his own plumbing business.
Yeah.
When Labour, or if Rachel Reeves went up to Makerfield and what she experienced there, it's just that the point is, I think that guy reveals just how far Labour are out of touch with the working class. The working class have had it with Labour, and they're all switching probably to Reform UK, certainly other parties. So that was a scene that I think spells very bad news for Andy Burnham up in Makerfield, the by-election. And here's what spells even worse news, Samara. I don't know if you've heard this, but guess who's going up there to help him campaign? Keir Starmer.
Comrade Keir.
He's lost, doesn't he? He's already lost.
I think this is going to really be a travesty for both Keir, Andy Burnham and the Labour Party. I mean, just imagine a near future whereby this plucky plumber from Makerfield actually wins the by-election. I mean, I'm not endorsing any specific party, but it is quite clear that Andy's going to make one stop to Makerfield, and then the next stop will be Westminster, and the Makerfield people will never see him again. That's what it's actually looking like. Because he's just using it for career progression. I think the people know that. They're not stupid. But then what happens is what happens to the mayoral position as well that Andy stepped away from? You know, who's that going to go to? Would that potentially go to Reform? I mean, you're right about this absolute rage that the working class, the general working man, is feeling towards the Labour government, and how they really have gone a very, very long way from their roots, Kev. You know, they are absolutely the Islington dinner party sect that we do endlessly talk about. And you can see the mask slip from Rachel Reeves's face. That's what I liked about that video the most, other than the fact that it is the most British thing I've ever seen. And I think it's great that we live in a country where you can do that to your chancellor and you can heckle them. I think that's the great part about being in Britain and being in the United Kingdom.
I agree with that. I think it was the opposite of un-British. It was a very British scene. He was good-natured, let's be fair. There was nothing...
She should be apologising to him, though. She should.
I agree.
She should not be berating him. You know, the way that you could see that all she wanted to do was swear and get really aggressive, but she was having to hold herself back. I think this is, you know, when she's being publicly heckled, it tells you everything you need to know about the public mood. And you're so right. I didn't think about Makerfield in this context, but it's true. It shows you where the working man is going with his vote.
Yeah, exactly right. You know, there's nothing Labour politicians hate more than actually having to connect with real working class people because they stopped representing the working classes a long time ago. They now represent the elites from North London. Let's talk quickly, if you don't mind, Samara, about Prince Andrew. They've released the Andrew files. This is as part of a police investigation into his alleged nefarious behaviour over many years, his association with Jeffrey Epstein and his work as the UK's special international trade envoy. He did that job from 2001 to 2011, but had to resign following the scrutiny of his expenses and his associations with controversial figures. He used to use a lot of these trips just to hook up with wealthy men and do deals for himself, never mind the country. Now, these files, first of all, they reveal, I think it was Tony Blair that gave him the job, they reveal it was the Queen who was desperate to get her favourite son a gig, a job. And the government just gave it to him. He was quite clearly utterly unfit to do this, didn't have the requisite intelligence, had no diplomatic skills. And if you read the files, it's extraordinary. You know, there's his own people recommending to the government, don't send him to places with golf resorts or golf courses because he'll only go off and play golf, and he prefers to go to sophisticated countries and all this kind of thing. It was just giving this guy a sort of mollycoddled role which cost us a lot of money, for which he was unsuited. He didn't do the country any good at all. It is that kind of deference to the royals and aristocrats and the upper classes that hopefully Britain has ditched now, but if it hasn't, it needs to ditch it. We can't do anything like this anymore. Oh, it's the Queen's son. Give him this important job. He earned the nickname Air Miles Andy during his tenure because he just flew around the world, often refused to stay at British embassies for free and insisted on staying at nearby five-star hotels, often if they had attached golf courses. He just took us for a ride, didn't he?
Yeah, he took the entire nation for a ride. I mean, I think it's no secret that he was Mummy's favourite. The Queen had a total affection for him, and I think that's led to his ultimate demise, to be honest, because he got away with so much for so long. And I think also part of the reason that a lot of this was suppressed while the Queen was still alive is because she probably didn't want that to tarnish her legacy. And I think, you know, we always talk about the Queen with a very high regard, and I think she deserves that because she rarely did put a foot wrong during her reign. But unfortunately, I think with Andy, it was a big...
He was her Achilles heel, wasn't he?
Totally. And she kind of created this monster, didn't she? Because she mollycoddled him massively. I mean, he was part of the second batch of children that she had 10 years after Anne and the King. And I think it's really interesting how he wasn't even vetted for this job. That's how quickly it was pushed past, and that's how things were done, you know, back in just, I mean, merely less than 15 years ago, this would have happened. And you're right about Air Miles Andy. I mean, just to give the listeners a bit of a view in how much he was spending of your taxpayer cash, you know, in 2010 alone, reports said that he spent around £620,000, £154,000 just on hotels and food. Yeah. You know, one estimate did suggest that the role cost taxpayers about £4 million. You know,
as I just said, Samara, it was common practice for him. But you know, somebody going to a city or a country on official British business, someone who was a trade envoy for the government, normally would stay at the embassy. Mm-hmm. He perennially often said, no, I want to stay at the nearby five-star hotel, very expensive penthouse suite, often because it would have a golf course. He also used these trips to hook up personally with very rich individuals, dodgy individuals, to line his own pockets. And it really is extraordinary if you look at these files where you've got his own people who are working for him and at the palace, yes, advising the government, you know, don't send him anywhere where there's a golf course, or and then saying if he does take his golf clubs, you know, try to make sure he doesn't play in a public place. You know, this is just bizarre, isn't it? It's very old-fashioned, deferential Britain. Oh, the Queen wants a job for her son. Give him this job. Oh, let's spend, you know, millions of pounds flying him around the world so he can enjoy himself at our expense. And he was terrible at the job. He was a diplomatic disaster.
Absolutely.
Always really offending and alienating people all over the country. So great respect to the late, great Queen, but, you know, from now on, I don't want any Prime Minister it's the King wants this, or the Queen wants that. That old-fashioned Britain must die.
Well, absolutely. I mean, I just want to leave you with a quote from Ghislaine Maxwell through Virginia Giuffre's book, which said that, you know, she quote unquote said about some of the girls and the alleged victims, oh, these girls, they're working class, they're nothing. And I think that's exactly how Andrew felt about the British public and how he despised those who actually funded his escapades and his ridiculously bourgeois behavior for so many years. And hopefully he will meet justice, or at least something will happen. I mean, it's all obviously alleged at the moment, but even hearing how he put national security at risk through alleged reports of him ferrying women in and out of the palace and using the code name Mrs. Windsor and having them turn a blind eye just shows you what he actually felt about his so-called job that he never really did.
Exactly right, Samara. Really good to have you on the show. Thank you so much. The brilliant Samara Gil there, talk reporter, ace reporter for this channel. Let's go to break. When we come back, going to take your calls. Kinsey Scoffield will be on the show a little bit later. But straight after the break, 03444 99 1000. Let's talk. It's good to talk on Talk.
Breaking news this morning revealed that under the Terrorist Act, 242 people were arrested in the year to June of this year.
That's something you can indulge in as to all the people who aren't going to prison because, well, there's no prison spaces.
So this is a Talk exclusive we've been looking at.
I said, you take these cuffs off me and speak to me like a human being rather than a common criminal.
You're just left wondering, do these people who lead us actually hate Britain? Yeah. Do they not love our country and everything that we've stood for?
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Calls in a minute, but first, competition time. The FIFA World Cup 2026 is almost here, and thanks to Adidas, the tournament's official match ball supplier, our friends at TalkSport are giving you the chance to be there. Adidas is sending you and a friend to Dallas to see England versus Croatia live on June the 17th with return flights, accommodation, spending money, tickets, and your very own Adidas official match ball trionda. Be at England's first game in the FIFA World Cup at one of the world's best stadiums. Ready to get that winning feeling? Here's how to enter.
Get ready for that winning feeling. For your chance to win, head to talksportwin.com or text TALK to 83338. Texts and online entries cost £2.50 plus your standard network rate. Or call 0343 418 7260. Lines close 1st of June 2026 at 4 p.m. That's when you'll need to answer your phone if it rings. 18 plus UK residents only. This is a network promotion. See full terms and conditions at talksport.com/win. So for your chance to win, text TALK to 83338 now. Full T's and C's at win.talk.tv.
Welcome back. Your calls in just a second. 0344499 1000. First, here's a voice note from Russ on Rachel Reeves.
Why are we even questioning what that man said to Rachel Reeves? I tell you what's un-British, putting women and children in danger, opening the borders, prioritising foreign people that shouldn't even be here, that are here illegally, prioritising legal migration before the British, putting taxes up and up and up and up on the British, penalising the British, and then keeping their mouths shut. And if you don't put up and shut up, they will throw you in jail. How is that British, Rachel Reeves? What the man says was very tame to what the British people want to say.
Yeah, Russ is right. I mean, British people in this country seem to be second-class citizens. Russ for Prime Minister, I say. Shall we go to the phones? Let's talk to Anthony. He's a new caller. Always love a new caller from Bolton. Hello, Anthony.
Hi, Karen. I'm just on about Rachel Reeves.
Yeah.
She's got 100 grand a year. I'm sure she'd be open to any kind of criticism, to be fair. Yes. You know, of what you know. What
she's on more than that, you know. She's on more than that. I think it's about 130, 140, isn't it?
Wow.
So, yeah, don't worry about Rachel. She's very nicely set up. Don't forget also, when you get a job that either the Chancellor or the Prime Minister, you get this free accommodation in Downing Street, and they always put their lovely homes up for rent, and they do very, very nicely on their position. But that's the story of Westminster politicians, of cabinet secretaries. They're all right, Jack. The rest of us are suffering because of their lousy policies.
Yeah. You should take it on the chin and just carry on. That's what people voted for. They should have out their opinions, to be fair.
Yeah. And didn't you think that guy, I thought he was very good-natured, but I think he spoke for all of us, didn't he? Just shouting, you're useless, you're useless.
Yeah. yeah. Just carry on and go where you go, definitely.
Anthony, that was your first call. Don't make it your last. Thank you very much. Excellent. Call me again. Anthony in Bolton there. Let's talk to Brian in Wiltshire. Hi, Brian.
Oh, hi, Kev. Third-time caller as well.
Are you the third time or first time? First time.
First time, sorry.
OK, great, great, excellent. That would be funny, wouldn't it? Sort of fifth-time caller. No, anyway, good to have you on the show. Great first call. What would you like to say, Brian?
Yeah, I was just interested in this announcement today that all of these businesses now need to provide free access, low tax to people going to their attractions in the summer.
That's a good point. I didn't think about that.
Has nobody thought about how much that will cost those businesses to change their processes, their procedures, their IT systems, their till systems, just to do and manage that for 1 month or whatever the hell it is.
But you know, also, Brian, think about this. It's you and me, it's taxpayers are going to... It's 300 million quid she's going to shell out on cutting VAT so kids can go to the zoo and families can go to summer attractions cheaper. That's 300 million pounds. Who's going to pay for that? It's us. It's us. You know, it's like when they keep going, we're free breakfast clubs. They're not free. We pay for them. So they've got a great... Labour has a great habit of being very, very generous with taxpayers' money.
Yeah, and then what they're asking those small businesses to do as well is to pay even more out in terms of, you know, the cost.
Having to change all their
put in place.
all their literature, etc. No, I mean that's classic uncaring attitude by Labour for all businesses, but particularly small businesses. They've been ruinous to small businesses. Are you a small business man by any chance, Brian?
No, I'm not. No, I do work for a larger organisation.
Oh, okay, fair
enough. I sorry, sorry, I didn't mean to swear there. But over the summer, I've got to change everything just for that 1 month of that one policy, and that is such a massive cost to those businesses.
Yeah, I know. Can I ask you? Let me move on. I want to ask you one question. Right, good call, by the way. West Streeting, the wannabe Prime Minister, he's delivered his resignation speech, and he says about Labour, he said, Labour we are in the fight of our lives against nationalism, and it's a fight we're currently losing. So Labour hate nationalism, they're fighting it, and they fear they might lose the battle to nationalism. Do you know what nationalism is? It's a love of one's own country. This is the dictionary definition. A love of one's own country, an ideology that promotes the interests of a nation with the aim of gaining and maintaining sovereignty over its homeland, prioritising national unity, cultural identity and autonomy. Why do West and Labour hate the idea of nationalism so much? Sounds all right to me, doesn't it, you?
It does to me. In answer to your question, I have absolutely no idea, but I do fundamentally hope that he loses that battle.
Yeah, I do too. I do too. Brian, your first call, don't make it your last. That was great. Call me again. That's Brian in Wiltshire. Shall we go to break? And when we come back, we'll talk to Kinsey Scoffield about the latest goings on Planet Royal. That next. Stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's go straight over to the United States of America and talk to the excellent host of Kinsey Scoffield Unfiltered, who's actually called Kinsey Scoffield as well, so that's a good name for Kinsey Scoffield Unfiltered. Hi, Kinsey, how are you?
Hey, Kev. We had a fun chat today, or this week, I should say, on Kinsey Scoffield Unfiltered. It's doing pretty well.
We did indeed. Now, I do believe that was shortly before we were talking about that kind of very inappropriate picture that she posted of her and Lilibet, her kid, just before going to Switzerland to make a speech about the harms of online dangers to children. So she posts something online with a child and then goes...
And don't forget AI's the enemy, but shop my AI app.
Yeah, yeah, exactly right. Now, then came this extraordinary wedding album photo dump. Well, she has posted dozens of previously unseen pictures of that magical day back in May 2018, their wonderful Windsor wedding, when we thought this was going to be fantastic, the future would be astonishing, and everybody felt great about all of this. Now, that notwithstanding, she's posted all these pictures, and I think this is extraordinary. She has censored the royal family from it. It's as if the royal family weren't there. The best man, William, has become the invisible man. He's not in any of Meghan's pictures, nor is Catherine, the Princess of Wales, nor is the late Queen Elizabeth or the late Prince Philip, Anne, Edward, you name it, they're not there, nor are any of the galaxy of stars who went there as well, who attended that wedding. So she's censored everybody out of this great raft of pictures, and it's just her, mainly her, and a little bit of Harry. Now that strikes me as a really, really unpleasant thing to do. It comes across a lot of people saying, well, that is a declaration of open war. This is Meghan's hatred of the royal family spewing out because she can't even bear to post pictures of her in-laws, Harry's relatives, on Instagram. Bizarre, I think.
The act of war to me was the racism allegations, but, you know, I digress. I mean, let's be honest, Meghan wouldn't allow cell phones or photos taken at her wedding to Trevor Ingleson. And when her dad showed up with his camcorder,
her first husband,
her first husband, with his camcorder, with his camera, so proud to celebrate the wedding he helped pay for in Jamaica. Meghan made him go through those videos and photos and delete them. She wanted there to be no proof of that day with Trevor. I mean, if I'm Trevor's family, I'm caught off guard by that demand. Why are you so early in our marriage being so secretive about what's supposed to be the most important day of our lives, the wedding day? So for Meghan to try to rewrite history in this scenario as well, I'm not surprised by it. This is par for the course when it comes to Meghan Markle. She tries to paint things in a completely different light than reality. The reality is you were in the position you were in that day, and you got your dream wedding at Windsor at St. George's Chapel because of the same people you've alienated over the last few years. Do you think 20 years ago a son of a future king could marry a divorced American? No. They allowed Princess Margaret didn't get to marry the person she wanted to marry, but here is Prince Harry getting to marry this actress who's been seen doing sexual things in some of the movies and television shows that she has acted in, which, you know, the royal family would be appalled by. You know, that everybody freaks out over the fact that she's biracial. I don't think that had any, I don't think the royal family cared about that at all, except thinking that was a wonderful addition to the family. I don't think that there was any question as to whether she could marry into the family due to that. But she was a divorced American actress, which is very unappealing to British culture. And, you know, and so
it certainly is now. It certainly is now.
Right? Yeah. And so the fact that the royal family welcomed her with open arms was a huge, huge deal. And she's trying to pretend as if they are not the reason that she has the platform she has. It's delusional. She would still be the girl from Suits if it weren't for Harry and his family. And yeah, just
let's have a look. I mean, you're right. That's what struck me. I mean, the royal family, the king and the then Queen, Prince Philip, the then Prince Charles, now King, they went out of their way to make her feel welcome. You saw the King walking, or Prince Charles as he was then, walking Meghan down the aisle. He stepped in because, of course, Meghan didn't want her down market, her own family there, because she's a bit of a snob. She's a social mountaineer, I think, and she doesn't like the reality of a blue-collar background. That would be my interpretation. That notwithstanding, I looked at the pictures of Harry, right, of her dancing with Harry, her suction kissing him, and I tell you what, he just looked like a little rag doll in her arms. You know, she clearly was director of operations on that day, and you could almost see from those pictures this poor innocent ginger guy, a lamb to the slaughter, being sucked into Meghan's master plan because she can't really get globally famous or become a billionaire being on Suits, so the next best thing is to marry into the royal family. It looks as if it was all part of a plan.
Well, I think that's a no-brainer. And also, she was being written out of Suits when she met Prince Harry. They, you know, her character was limited, and she had also proven allegedly to be difficult on set, saying, "Why do I have to be dressed this way? Why can't I be dressed this way?" Going to another coworker and having him champion for her to get private security and a private car to drive her to the studio, even though she was 6 on the call sheet. So she was on her way out of Suits and heading into her 40s, which I can talk about because I'm in my 40s, but you know, they treat you like your expired milk in your 40s. She was moving on to minivan mom roles. So she was very limited in what she could do next after Suits. Harry, she hit the jackpot. And we might have had this conversation before, so I apologize if I'm repeating myself, but I do think she approached him from a maternal standpoint, mothered him in a way. And some of the friction that we read about today is due to the fact that she has turned that attention onto their children, which naturally happens. And he no longer feels that warmth, that safety that she initially potentially manipulatively provided him, knowing that he'd lost his mother in such a traumatic way, because that energy is now focused on not only her children, but you know, building these multiple brands that she's building in an attempt to desperately prove that she is a female entrepreneur, when the reality is you married well. You married well.
Yeah, and
that's all that happened for you.
She married well because she always she married into royalty, I think, as part of her plan. Now, the question has to be, right, 8th wedding anniversary, congratulations and all that. I believe it's called the bronze wedding anniversary at the 8th, but it's hardly a sort of iconic milestone, is it? So the question has to be, why on the 8th wedding anniversary did she release all of these extraordinary pictures? Why on the 8th anniversary? Wouldn't you do it, I don't know, on the 10th, the 25th, 15th or something like that? But is it, in your view, because it is my view, because she is seething with jealousy over Princess Catherine's recent triumphant trip to Italy, where she just garnered fantastic headlines. The Italians loved her and they went wild about Kate. And then suddenly, all of a sudden, Meghan dumps all of these pictures to mark the not particularly special 8th anniversary. I think it was to get the headlines back, to get the publicity back from her hated rival, the Princess of Wales. Your thoughts?
I mean, I always think that that's in the back of her head, but Kev, this has not been a good year for the Sussexes. Prince Harry's been sued by Senabale. The Invictus Games have lost some incredible leadership recently, and attitude reflects leadership. So if people are falling off, you know, from the top, imagine what's going on at the bottom. Boeing, according to Paula Froelich, has pulled out as a sponsor. That's an incredible, huge sponsor of the Invictus Games. Let's see what else. We're asking, where's her podcast? What happened to Confessions of a Female Founder? We know that Netflix not only changed their deal, but they canceled With Love Meghan. As ever, like, is she releasing a new bookmark? That's not breaking news. So as ever, it feels like is going nowhere, as never, as some of our viewers have left in the comments below. She's got to distract from these professional failures, which she often does. She's often over the top to distract from professional failures. And Australia really blew up in their faces. I guess she really thought you can go embrace children with cancer and also try to shill the T-shirt you're wearing on an AI app, and that nobody's going to bat an eye and not think, hey, that's exploiting these children that might not be here in a few years, and that's wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, embracing the Bondi Beach victims, buy my outfit.
Yeah.
It's
going to
so
see
vile.
victims of the Bondi Beach massacre and basically using it as a modelling session to sell clothes. It was
a catwalk.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Listen, let me ask you about this. Jan Muir, the brilliant writer for the Daily Mail, wrote this about what she called this picture dump. She said, if the aim of this puzzling, wholly invasive picture dump is to underline Harry and Meghan's beatific partnership, it only does so by emphasising the vacuum at the heart of their lives. My question to you, Kinsey, is why is it that Meghan feels the need to constantly advertise the wonderfulness, the happiness of this relationship? You know, it's as if she doesn't trust us to believe that she's happy. And frankly, these public displays of affection that you saw in the video that they posted the other day of Harry bringing in the cake, the anniversary cake, and the penguins and the kids squealing, all seems to be calculated to convince us that this is, you know, her personal paradise is absolutely perfect. And the more she does it, the more I suspect her personal paradise is far from perfect.
I mean, I look at those images and I see a woman that misses the life she once had. So if that was what she was trying to project, I think she missed the mark here. But why does she do it? It's the same reason why she shares a private message from flight attendants congratulating her on her anniversary. It paid people there to serve her. I think it's the same reason why she couldn't fit into the British royal family. A very deep insecurity. I think she's an insecure person, and that's why she's shoving her relationship down our throats, because she knows people are saying, is everything okay? Man, your life seemed a lot better 7 years ago. I do think that it's ultimately it's insecurity, and she is trying to prove a point, and she is trying to, you're seeing a lot since Meredith Maines left, one of their communications people.
Yeah.
Meghan and Harry are fighting back on headlines constantly, to the point of it looking messy, it looking a little schizophrenic, and you really sitting back and observing why Never Complain, Never Explain truly does work in the end much better than explain everything. Yeah. But I think Meghan's trying to fight a narrative that she doesn't like about rumors circulating that these two are unhappy.
Yeah, I mean, truly happy couples, truly happy families don't need to advertise the fact all the time. And
they're not on Instagram, guys.
Yeah, and couples who do that, you always suspect, well, maybe that relationship is not as happy as they're trying to make out. I've got a last question for you, Kinsey. It's a very important question. That video that we saw the other day in the kitchen, here's your penguins, and I've got a cake to celebrate our 8th, Harry coming in as a cake. It's our 8th anniversary. 8th anniversary.
Singing. Don't forget the singing.
Why did that cake only have 4 candles? Is it because he can't count, do you think?
I think Prince Harry can't count to 21 unless he's naked.
And on that bombshell, it's great to talk to you, Kinsey, as always. Have a great weekend. We'll talk again next week. That's the brilliant Kinsey Scoffield, host of Kinsey Scoffield Unfiltered. Next up, we'll finish the show with more of your calls. 03444991000. Peter Cardwell will be in a little while to tell you what he's got lined up for your entertainment from 7 p.m. until 10 p.m. All of that still to come. Stick around.
Breaking news this morning revealed that under the Terrorist Act, 242 people were arrested in the year to June of this year.
That's something you can indulge in as to all the people who aren't going to prison because, well, there's no prison spaces.
So this is a Talk exclusive we've been looking at.
I said, you take these cuffs off me and speak to me like a human being rather than a common criminal.
You're just left wondering, do these people who lead us actually hate Britain?
Yeah.
Do they not love our country and everything that we've stood for?
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. A couple of calls in a minute. Earlier in the show, Dorset Police asked us to read a statement which they said would put the record straight about potential inaccuracies in our report yesterday about the situation in that lovely seaside town, which many say has been changed beyond all recognition by the hundreds of migrants and asylum seekers billeted in 3 huge hotels in the middle of that town, in the middle of Bournemouth. This is from Paul. Good afternoon, Kevin. We listened with interest to the Dorset Police statement. We live in Christchurch, a neighbouring town to Bournemouth, and never go to Bournemouth anymore because we no longer feel safe in that town. Fine words from Dorset Police, but the reality is very different. That's Paul's opinion. Dorset Police were very keen for us to read out a statement about the doubtless hard work they're doing to try and sort the situation out in Bournemouth, but the truth is people in Bournemouth do not feel safe. It's as simple as that. We got the switchboard is jammed day after day about that. Right, let's go back to the phones. Let's talk to Herbie in Harrow. Hi, how you doing, Herbie?
Good afternoon, Kevin.
All right.
Very well, thank you.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Listen, I got a question for you. I'm glad you're on. I got a question for you. I've been asking people this. I don't know if you, you were sensible enough not to bore yourself stupid with Wes Streeting's resignation speech in the House of Commons. But in it, apart from saying he was going to tax the rich, which of course they all want to do, he started talking about nationalism. He said, this is about the Labour Party. He said, we are in the fight of our lives against nationalism, and it's a fight we're currently losing. Now, what is it he doesn't like about nationalism? I'll read you the dictionary definition of nationalism, and then you try and tell me, Herbie, what it is Labour hates about this. Nationalism is a love of one's own country, an ideology that promotes the interests of a nation with the aim of gaining and maintaining sovereignty over its homeland, prioritising national unity, cultural identity and autonomy. Sounds all right to me. Why do you think Wes Streeting hates it and believes he's got to continue the fight of his life against it?
Why don't you send him that quote, Kevin?
That's a dictionary definition.
You send in that quote, the nationalism, what nationalism means. He might learn something. You might educate him, Kevin, by sending that to him. Send it to his office, please, so he can read it and ask him to reply.
Do you know why I think they're doing it? Do you know why I think nationalism is the Labour lot's new alternative to racism? They've realised that calling everyone racist, calling everyone they don't agree with racists, has not worked, to say the least. So they've moved on to a new bogey word, which is nationalism. If you look up the definition of nationalism, it's just the love of one's own country. What's wrong with that?
Exactly, Kevin. What is going on in this world today, in this country today, with this Labour Party in control of everything? They're trying to belittle us. You know, I think people are starting to wake up slowly and surely. I know that they are starting to wake up and understand what we really are fighting. What we really are fighting is this Labour Party that's about to destroy this country once and for all.
They're hopelessly
unrecognisable.
They're hopelessly out of touch, Herbie. They really, really are. Listen, I've got to move on. It's always good to talk to you. Give me a call tomorrow. That's Herbie in Harrow. Last call to Carol in Stevenage. Hi, Carol. Nationalism. Yeah, got to fight that, haven't we?
I'm a nationalist. I love it. I want hymns in schools.
Yeah, you're a nationalist because you love your own country, right?
Yeah, I love it. But also, what I'd like to know, is Dan Hodges was exposed on Hope Not Hate 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But now it seems he's going a little bit to the right and he's taking money off talkTV.
Well, Dan Hodges, I'm not sure he's taking. I'm not sure. Hang on a second. No, I think Dan's a good guy, and I don't know whether he takes money off us or not. That's not within my remit. So, but if he gets a fee for when he comes on, he's entitled to that. And I think he's done some brilliant work on the disintegration and the decline and fall of this terrible government. Carol, keep on being a nationalist. Thanks for an excellent call. Carol in Stevenage. Peter Carball is in the studio. Are you a nationalist?
I'm more worried about, do people get paid to come on this station? Do you get paid?
Not enough!
Am I meant to get paid? Can I get paid? Is that possible?
I don't think it is, actually, from personal experience.
We've run out of money because we've given it all to Kevin
O'Sullivan. It's bizarre, though, this West Streeting thing. You know, we're the fight of our lives against nationalism.
No, I saw the clip.
Yeah, I mean, you just heard it. Dictionary definition of
What's wrong with
nationalism is a love of one's own country, an ideology that promotes the interests of a nation with the aim of gaining and maintaining sovereignty over its homeland, prioritising national unity, cultural identity and autonomy. What exactly does West hate about that?
I'd love to ask him. A couple of things I'm really worried about. One is anti-Semitic attacks in this country and the police not telling us about them.
Really?
I have a source in Golders Green.
Really?
There's an attack that hasn't been reported. I'm going to tell people about it after the news. That happened earlier today, actually.
Wow.
And the police have apparently said anti-Semitic attacks are so frequent now that they're not proactively putting out press releases about them.
That's good.
I know.